Friendship is suffering. Empathy is meaningless. You are not a unique snowflake. Wait, why is this script so edgy? Fuck, we're talking about Fight Club.
Welcome to the library, don't tell me. You're here for a special book.
Punk rock, literature, poetry, realizing the power of putting the pen to the paper and expressing yourself.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
Welcome back to the Making Friends podcast, where we talk about friendship, feelings, and building connections. I'm Maisy, and I'm here with Jake and Jordan, where today we've got our third episode of the Annotated Book Club. Our last two episodes were just a warm-up because this one is a real doozy. It might actually be the king of red flag books, Fight Club. And our main question today is, fellas, is it gay to be in love with your imaginary friend?
Yeah, you know what? Hey, let me step in here real quick. I think it depends. Jordan, when you had an imaginary friend growing up, how did you feel about yours? Was it something like a little, intimate maybe?
He was my only friend. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that seems about right.
But before we get into all that, let's talk about what we're reading right now. Jake, you want to start first?
Yes. Outside of reading for the podcast, the fun, more interesting reads I'm doing right now are Augustus by John Williams, which in terms of style is a little different. It's written in the epistolary style, which is something it's not something I've ventured into much in the past, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm also kind of biased in that other works by John Williams are some of my favorite pieces I've read in the last probably decade, honestly. Stoner, a standout. It actually probably inspired me to get a little more into fiction as I read it because it made me, I teared up, I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel things. What about you, Jordan?
I'm currently reading near the end of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, which I'm actually reading for the first time. I haven't read much Vonnegut. The only other novel I read of his was his last one that he published, which was Hocus Pocus.
Bleh.
And I loved it. I really liked his style. So now I want to read this one knowing that it's his big book. And I'm actually just now getting to the Slaughterhouse-Five. They have just arrived in Dresden and been introduced to the slaughterhouse.
Have you been enjoying? I mean, clearly you enjoyed the book. Did you find any kind of difficulty dealing with the time traveling, the jumping from dimension? You enjoyed it?
I actually think it makes it very authentic.
Yes,
genuine. Yeah, it's a very unique read.
Yeah.
Well,
still telling a rather succinct, or not maybe succinct, but a good way of explaining the atrocities that go on with war and stuff.
And I love how it's just war is going to happen. War is war. We're at war like that. When they say we know how the universe is going to end, it's going to happen. And he's like, why don't you stop it? And there is no stopping it. It already happened. It is happening. It's happened. It is a very unique way. And I'm sure at this point they were already playing around with the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
But I think Vonnegut does a great job of bringing all this deeper scientific stuff into a great literary form. And his writing he's just a fun read. Speaking of fun reads.
What about you, Mace? What are you reading?
I am doing a fun read right now. I've been in a reading slump for the past few months. It's just been really hard for me to focus on any book in particular.
But you just read this great book, Fight Club.
Yeah, it kind of took all my reading juice out of me.
Took the joy out of it.
Yeah. So right now I'm reading one of my guilty pleasure authors, Karen Slaughter, released a new book last year, We Are All Guilty. And honestly, it's been really good. I'm not going to lie to you. I started it and have already gotten into 200 pages in just 2 sittings worth of reading. So it is really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's empty head thriller, but it is really easy to read and it's a fun time.
I think that's fine. I don't mind. I think it's fine every once in a while. I like to pick something that's not that it's bad. It's just it's a fun, easy read.
Yeah, you need that let off of steam to dive back into something with a little bit more literary meat.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody need that break. I think we've all been there. Not Jordan. He only reads hard-hitting stuff all the time.
Yeah, the class. I just peruse the classics. I'm kind of rereading this.
Speaking of classics, what book are we talking about today?
So Fight Club and Men Misunderstanding It are such mainstays of the zeitgeist that it's become a meme. In fact, in our last book club episode on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I say that the book suffers from Fight Club syndrome. And what I mean by that is it's chronically misunderstood to be advocating for bad behavior rather than a satire or critique of the people performing that behavior. And Fight Club is the big daddy of that phenomenon, the OG movie and book in the modern era that women see as a red flag when men talk about how much they love it. And to be perfectly totally honest with you, I am one of those women. When men talk to me about Fight Club, I start to side-eye a little bit and listen more closely to what they're saying about why they like it.
Yeah, but a better book I think we red flag, A Little Life. If you want some hard-hitting reading that I think should if someone says A Little Life is my favorite book, I think maybe check that person out maybe. I say that knowing that I really enjoy A Little
Yeah,
Life.
that person is probably deeply depressed, which is probably why both you and I enjoyed it so much.
Was a helpful read during therapy. Anyways, moving on, I'm sorry.
Yay, therapy! To quote Rafa Sales Ross in her 25-year retrospective on Fight Club for Letterboxd, quote, Fincher's cult classic joins the rank of other red flag films in the age of incel culture alongside Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive, and The Mad Clown, of course. These films are the equivalent of guys who are a bit too enthusiastic about cryptocurrency, give Jordan Peterson the benefit of the doubt, and have read only dodgy self-help bestsellers and Bret Easton Ellis.
And they're the bad decision we've all made at one time in our lives and taken home.
Amen. In case you're not already familiar with the plot of Fight Club, here's a brief summary. Basically, the book follows an unnamed narrator who has insomnia and is taken to attending support groups for conditions he doesn't have to get relief from his constant sense of ennui, allowing him to sleep. However, on a business trip, he meets Tyler Durden, a hyper-confident, hyper-masculine soap salesman who lures him in with anti-consumerist, anti-capitalist rhetoric and his assertion that the only way for men to be happy is to be able to get their aggression out by beating the shit out of each other. They start an underground fight club, which turns into a global trend of men forming underground fight clubs, all inspired by Tyler, who begins using these fight clubs to recruit men into a paramilitary organization bent on the blanket destruction of society. So having never read the book or watched the movie before we decided to do this episode, it was really interesting for me to come at the book with only these existing things that I already knew about the story. The other thing is that I already knew I liked Chuck Palahniuk's writing. I'd read Haunted and Choke and liked both of those pretty well. So I think out of the three of us, I'm the most likely to have read this book like just of my own volition, like without doing it for a project. And I think that's pretty evidenced by the fact that I'm the one who liked it the most. I actually really enjoyed the book. I had a really good time reading it. Like I said, I liked Chuck Palahniuk's writing. And I think I liked it slightly less than Haunted, a little bit more than Choke. But I found the movie to just kind of be annoying, which I think is an unpopular opinion. But Jake, what did you think about the book and movie before we came into it?
I've had a complicated relationship with this book since picking it up. It's not a book I was ever going to read outside of this project. Chucky P. Hey, he's not an author I go up, nor do I like. I didn't care. Like I did enjoy the book. Like it's a fun read. Like it's something you can pick up, enjoy. You get the action, and and if you want to, you can look into that message of anti-consumerism. But pairing that with once I started, I think what took the joy out of it for me was like learning more about Chuck Palahniuk and like just how he was as a person and how he's not really writing. He's not going for this actual like in-depth message on anti-consumerism, rugged individualism, hypermasculinity. But also there's this meeting some of the or not meeting, but dealing with some of the people who do love this book and movie and really take it to kind of miss the message or just,
Don't see the
apply it the wrong
satire.
ways.
Yeah.
They don't see the satire.
Yeah, they miss the
right?
satire.
Like,
I mean, so it's a love-hate relationship. I do like the book more than the movie. I also prefer, I'll go ahead and say it now, I prefer how the book itself ends compared to the movie. The movie, of course, it has to be a movie, I guess. It takes the
Hollywood.
usual turn of like, bad guy loses, good guy gets the girl.
Have
The love
some,
interest,
yeah.
he's clearly better and everything, whereas the book itself, and we can always get it more often, ends on a more,
It has like this very open-ended and also kind of like,
Haunting.
haunting.
I like,
Yeah,
I
it's
love
like,
the way it
it's
leaves you
somewhat
feeling.
bleak. Yeah, which I
Yeah.
love.
It kind of leaves this thing of where the narrator's he's not cured. Like in the movie, it kind of seems like he's cured, he's over it. Where the book, he's still there. Durden's still a part of him, and I think that's what I enjoy. What really sells me on the book.
It feels more realistic that he would have to
Absolutely.
like struggle with like the residue of this happening,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah,
and
actually,
it's
yeah.
not just like magically fixed.
Consequences,
Consequences.
something poorly lacking in our society. What about you, Jordan? How do where'd the book and movie stack up for you, bud?
I'm like you. I love his writing style. It's a fun read. You move through it, and I never like picked it up and like it was a chore. Except I got sick, or for lack of a better word, just tired sick and tired of him. I knew what his goal was. His point was to make you annoyed with that kind of disillusionment. But he does a really good job of it to the point where I'd be rolling my eyes like, "Oh, dude, you're being ooh, look at you, you're edgy. Aren't you edgy?" And I think one of the biggest problems with me, though, is I knew this for it. Went in knowing it's gonna be edgy because I had seen the movie in my teens, when I was, like, probably, like, 7th or 8th grade, I think I watched it. And, so I had already knew everything that's good about this book, everything to keep you on your toes. I was waiting for it, you
Can I
know?
ask that, like, saying you had imagine you hadn't watched the book and you or hadn't watched the movie,
Yeah.
and you read the book, like, when you were a teen or, like, when you were younger. Do you have an idea of maybe how you would have taken that message? Or do you think you would have just enjoyed it as, like, "Oh, this is a fun action read"?
It's interesting to think if 13, 14-year-old me would see satire, or would I even understand that, "Ooh, authors can say things and mean the opposite." You know? Maybe, so when you read a book, maybe there are some people who are like, "He's on to something," like, that's his purpose.
I do genuinely think there are people who think he was on to something.
Well, of
And you
course.
think about in the '90s, this was probably, like, somewhat maybe for a lot of people, a profound message into anti-consumerism and everything. It speaks to the more mainstream and, larger
So
audience.
so to answer your question, reading it in my teens, high school years maybe, when I'm like, I'm edgy too,
Mhm.
uh, um, would I have taken it more seriously? Probably. What I'm curious is what would I have done with that? Because I don't think I would have wanted to start a cult where I'm trying to, like,
Yeah, you wouldn't
create
have
my own
been.
bombs out of fertilizer. I'm wondering what I would have done with that idea of like, "Hey, Tyler Durden might have a" Hmm.
Might have some ideas.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in the mind space of someone who thinks like that.
You
You were
would
an edgy teen,
you would have
weren't you,
joined a far-right
Jake?
militia maybe? Or what?
You said you were an edgy teen, weren't you, Jake?
I was an angry teenager, yes. I was very but I'll let me just this is a good point, actually. I did watch the movie when I was pretty young. I think I watched it a year or so after it came out, and it didn't do anything for me. Again, it's not a mo I watched it a couple of times here and there. I think my father rented it for me when it came out at some point.
That makes sense.
Chuck's like, "You need to know
Tracks.
this. We're getting Boogie Nights and we're getting Fight Club."
Chelsea's watched it 3 times already.
God, man up, Jake. But no, I think maybe because I was already at least an aggressive kind of like, a physical teen and everything like that. So, like, I don't think it didn't catch my imagination like that because like me getting in a fight or being physical or dealing with, my own, childhood issues and everything like that. I don't think that's something, it just didn't appeal to me that way.
It wasn't a revolution to you because you were already, like, fighting your friends in the front yard,
Yeah.
like, that was a normal part of life.
Yeah, I'm wanting chicken or the egg, Jake. Had you seen Fight
We
Club
can
yet?
talk more later on. There is like some of me and my friends, we did like we got, it started with just like wrestling and then we got boxing gloves, then we got the mixed martial arts glove and everything. And there was like it wasn't like an everyday thing or anything like that, but there were definitely times where we got together, we'd fight, we'd box, we'd bloody some nose, beat the shit out of each other at times and everything. And it wasn't like Fight Club. We're not out going, this is how you can break yourself down, destroy all property, find your inner you, your zen. It was none of that. It was just us, being male teens trying to be, bravado. There is a little machismo there and everything.
Yeah, for
Yeah, you
sure.
definitely went in with the I'm gonna be
Yeah,
the
there's
man.
definitely that,
I'm gonna leave the man.
And it's wrestling with your boys, grabbing on them like that's the only time you get to be intimate, really.
Hmm.
Really getting close, with
Physically
them.
intimate.
Hugs.
Yeah.
You're hugging them, with your fists and
Which
your
you
love.
notoriously love.
Yeah. I love you. Punch. Love you. Oh my God. You cry a little bit. You're like, I'm just hurt. It's not emotions.
There's no feelings.
You think my dad loves me? No, Mike.
By the way, you're gonna tap out soon?
Give up. Anyways. So that's it was not a revolutionary movie. I'm just gonna say that. I don't care for Fight Club. Fun read, but I could do without it without reading it ever again.
Yeah,
no.
honestly, I think reflecting on it a little bit more, especially after like sitting with this for a minute and then also having re-listened to our American Psycho episode recently, I'm thinking of some parallels between like Patrick Bateman
Oh,
and
definitely.
Tyler Durden, both in like this anti-hero idea that you were kind of talking about when we were preparing our notes for this, but also like in this idea of like in the book, it's so much more serious, it's so much more intense, and then in the movie, in order to translate that to screen and kinda sell it to people a little bit more, we're making fun of him a little bit more, he's a little bit more silly.
Yeah, and I think that not again, but I think it falls at, like, they wanna make a movie that's gonna be palatable and kooky. It's a way easier to sell a serial killer being kooky and weird than just a brutal you can hide brutality behind some goofy shit all day, I think, you know? Look at Eminem.
When I think of, and I know y'all done the episode, but when I think of American Psycho, what really changed was Bale's performance. Like they said, that on set they thought it was uh, a joke. They thought it was like
Yeah.
he was so over the top. They were like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be ridiculous." It was borderline comedic.
Mhm.
But they said when you watch it and you see that seriousness, that Bale really did a good job. And sadly, I haven't read that book. I can only go off what the movie presents it as.
I fucking hated it.
I
Okay.
enjoyed it.
I liked it more than the movie.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's a fine movie. I've watched it a few times, I think, at this point, and
Mhm.
Christian Bale does a good
It
job
is just a
acting. It's
great
like
performance on his part. That's the only thing I can get out of
It
it.
is a really good performance,
he nails
yeah.
it. I personally don't care for it doesn't do it for me. A movie I prefer more, and I think it does a better job of doing what that movie could accomplish. Totally different message, The House That Jack Built.
I knew you were gonna say
Mm.
House That Jack Built.
I love that fucking movie.
I love it too.
I think Maze put me on that one,
I
actually.
did, that was my recommendation.
You're like, "Just watch it one night by yourself." I know
Watch
you're
it.
not a horror guy or anything, I know you're gonna enjoy it, though, and then I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Alright, so to segue back into Fight Club here, the first thing I wanna do to get us all in the headspace to analyze Fight Club is to set the stage and talk about what's happening in politics and culture in the '90s, and for that, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Jake.
Oh boy, the '90s. After taking on the dreadful task of having to learn about the '90s, to me, it can be best summed up as a decade of edging. I refuse to take that joke out, and I've said it so many times to these two people,
He's so proud of himself.
and they're like, "Take it out," and I'm like, "No." But no, the decade kicks off with a recession lasting roughly from mid-1990 to early 1991, which that's created by a mixture of events: the invasion of Kuwait by Iraqi forces, it created an oil shock, the saving and loan crisis, cuts to defense spending following the end of the Cold War, and neoliberalism. Now, let's consider Margaret Thatcher and the Reagan administration. They were some of the largest proponents of neoliberalism, which in terms of economics advocates deregulation, reduction of government intervention in domestic and global industries, privatization of public services, and reduction in public spending. Or another way to look at it, it is that corporations are given overwhelming power in how the global economy functions and who benefits from it. They use terms like free market to disguise the fact that the deregulation of these industries has led to the creation of a government and society that's actually being regulated by them, where the voice of the average worker is left with less and less say, and services that could at least alleviate some of their daily struggles are being cut.
That feels familiar.
Doesn't it though? It's like maybe this is still going on for some reason. Anyways, who knows? Societally, neoliberalism has a focus on individualism, intense self-reliance, and productivity, mixed with a reduction or outright end to state involvement, opting for privatization. So with neoliberalism, as the state recedes from structural interaction with its populace, its focus is directed at providing protections for the market. We end up with corporations and the ultra-wealthy defining the way the entire country, if not the world, is run. Now, throw in the LA riot, Ruby Ridge, Waco, the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City, a male identity crisis, talk radio host, NWO, the New World from WCW, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, the Attitude Era of the WWE. And then we can get a sense of the environment that Chuck Palahniuk is writing Fight Club in.
You guys like wrestling? Jake
I
does.
fucking love wrestling. Maze like, look, Jake, you can't talk about wrestling until we're gonna do a wrestling episode.
We are gonna do a
And
wrestling
I'm super.
episode.
It's gonna be. Look, guys,
I told him he has to do it all in voices, the whole thing.
don't fuck it. They're not good voices. What? What? Austin 3. I won't even get into it. I know my wrestling. That's coming, guys. As soon as I can just do this for a living, look, guys, hit the Patreon. I'd hate my job. Anyways, as soon as guys, you get wrestling and like drag episodes if you get me out of this work. All right. So the 90s sees many Americans feeling a sense of dispossession. There are growing criticisms of representative government, and there's a growing desire for a strong hand, for somebody to come in and do something different. Again, sounds familiar.
Mm.
In his book, When the Clock Broke, John Gans provides us with some people who seem to be able to tap into this feeling of dispossession and an overall anger of the average voter. From the neo-Nazi David Duke, the America Firster Pat Buchanan, the mob boss John Gotti, and billionaire Ross Perot. Speaking of Ross Perot, his 1992 presidential run ends up being the biggest challenge to the two-party system in close to 100 years at that time. I think the one prior to that was Roosevelt in 1912, maybe. I could be off on that. I'm not sure. That's not important. I don't know. I'm telling you this. And if I'm not, and of that 20%, if I'm not mistaken, the majority of that 20% comes from the middle class. But how does a political crank, populist billionaire who had never served as a public official pull this off? He asked without a hint of sarcasm. Again, in his book, John Gans states that Perot had one foot in the future and one in the past. He was a double throwback. On the one hand, there was all the mythological Americana, the cowboy and Western imagery, the Texan accent, the folksy idioms, the Norman Rockwell. He was also a throwback to another more recent past, a past in contradiction with the America of self-reliance and rugged individualism, but increasingly the source of its own nostalgia. The post-war regime of industrial prosperity, economic security, and corporate paternalism, Perot skipped over the cultural discontents of the 1960s and 70s, representing an internal middle America. But as a technologist, he also showed a path to the future, a technocratic solution to the problem of politics, a vision of government not based on bickering or corrupt, petty politicians who represent only their own interests, but one that directly represented the people through electronic media. And you get that sense for these people like that who are like they're kind of Perot comes off, pulls in populism and everything like that, and so does David Duke. They pull in this idea of like they know what's kind of what the people want. They're speaking for the people. Now, David Duke
Sounds
at least is
familiar as
considered
well.
like there's a faux populism with these kind of people. Like especially with David Duke, he's speaking for the people and everything. Yet you look at his past; he's got a neo-Nazi, Klansman. He's got these past, and then you have like a Pat Buchanan who's just a more cleaned up version of him. Now, Pat Buchanan, who's just as John Gans' book points out, or no, someone quotes saying he's a David Duke with a tie on, but Gans points out, I believe, that David Duke wore a war tie. Not important. Pat Buchanan, who was a speechwriter for the Nixon administration, was I think offered advice, spoke to Nixon. Basically, I'm losing my words here. So these guys are the people coming into the '90s looking for power. Like Pat Buchanan doesn't run in '92 and '96. Now, no way is he going to win the president, nor does he come close to doing what Ross Perot did by any means. But you're getting these people who are outsiders. This is what with the so much discontent, there's, as I said, point out, there's a recession and everything going on early in. We start running into with a situation where people are just looking for someone that's going to do something different, even though that difference still has hints of the past of what comes with America.
Yeah, they're just so disillusioned with what's been happening. They're like, anything but this, anything different, somebody.
And also, if you're wondering if these guys are good people, Ross Perot, a bit of a weird conspiracy paranoid nut. One of the things kind of weird that goes in, he was a big proponent or pusher behind the POW MIA operation going on. Prisoners of war missing in action. He's the one that kept pushing this conspiracy that the U.S. government had purposely left hundreds of American soldiers there, and for some conspiratory reasons are doing everything in our power not to show that they're there. Going so far as the Reagan administration bringing Ross Perot in to look at everything they had. Like, even people in the halls of government had not seen some of these documents. And since Ross Perot was such, first of all, he was lying in their pockets. He was definitely like a sponsor and everything like that. But also, he was just
so vocal about it that they're like, come look at our fucking paperwork, my guy.
He also had enough money to, as a billionaire, to get involved in foreign politics. Like, he hired mercenaries to go and basically try to get back employees of his that had been taken, like they were prisoners during the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's wild.
I find it so interesting that you talk about the disillusionment from the 80s. To me, it's something similar I see. It's ironic that now here we are looking back like it's the golden years and we want to make America like that again, because remember how great it was so great back then. You could almost say that they're trying to say, yeah, look at the 90s, like that was where we started dropping. But so we need to go back to before then.
Yeah.
But they don't think that it's the 80s that caused such disillusion.
Well, no, I think a lot of people, when you especially when you look at this kind of neoliberal kind of vibe, like in the 80s, you have these so Margaret Thatcher and Reagan start pushing for this neoliberal, Margaret Thatcher is into social Darwinism and looking at if you want to look for the more culture aspect of neoliberalism. It's focused on your individual rugged individual, exceptional individual. Like you're supposed to think of it as like pull yourself up by your own bootstraps in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
And like so that is like taking the
I don't
state
need no handout.
yeah, the state government's pulling back those like things for public need, but at the same time, in the economic side of things, they're pushing legislation or pulling back regulations on global industries or just industries in general. So in the '80s, yeah, you see like a lot of times you see the '80s, it's often painted as this like, oh, we're all having a great time and everything. That's usually people who are at least I would say your white collar jobs and up,
Yeah.
in more higher levels. Like they're not feeling any crunch at the point in time because they're still floating on like the lies of like the economy at that time. Now, and then when you hit '90s, so all these like the saving loans and crisis, real estate budget, all these real estate bubbles, these all start popping and coming to right at 1990.
Yeah, 1991 was like a great bubble burst.
So we go from just like the bottom always getting poor to now you have a hollowing out of middle America.
Yeah.
So that's where he's stacking. So the disillusionment that is starting in the '80s, it becomes more, I think, widespread by the time you get to the '90s.
Yeah. What can I ask? Would you say the 80s or the 90s had a greater middle class era? Where did you think it peaked?
Where do I think it peaked? I honestly don't know.
Because when I think of 80s, you think of like, it seems so common, but then again, I think of John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this brings to that kind of mythopoetic idea of the era being what it represented through how it's being presented now. What do I think of the 80s? Well, what movies have I watched on it?
Exactly. That's what most people who think of the '80s, I think, even people who lived it, I think they will often look at like the
Maisy.
movies that show the high times. I bet they're going to watch a movie like, there's a lot of coke done in the '80s. I'm like, well, yeah, it's the fucking
Right.
'80s. But I think, and this is just me, pure conjecture down here on this, is that like, yeah, I think the middle America, the average, your average family and everything is starting to lose ground and footing during the '80s. It's already happening. Because at that time you're seeing a growth and any kind of legislation that starts coming in to help the more powerful elites, industries, and anyone at a certain level job wise, I think benefits from that. For anyone who doesn't reach that quality of like white collar job, your blue collars, your manufacturers, your people who are going to the warehouse, they're losing jobs. They're not making money. Their money's are they're what they're earning is not going up. We have already a stagnation in raises and everything like that. So I think it starts in the '80s, and I think by the time you get to like mid '90s, you almost had like a full fall. Like you got like an angry voter block now going on because like what's going on? Why aren't we having these good times like we see in media and everything? What's going on?
Mm-hmm. And you get like a lot of angry, lot of disillusionment, lot of depression movies in the '80s or like late '80s, early '90s. A lot of stuff that happens during this time period.
You get first generation Undertaker
Yes.
in the '90s and everything
Yes.
like that.
I mean, the growth of wrestling, I do feel like is kind of relevant to like what we're talking about with what's happening in the culture.
Yeah.
We've been watching this documentary about wrestling. My apologies. However, I do have a point, which is that the at the time, WWF starts to get really big in the very late '80s, sort of, and then you get into the Attitude Era in the '90s. And I do think that is reflective of what we're kind of talking about.
Well, hang on. I want to point out WCW for, I think, 80-something weeks actually outdid the WWE in ratings. Hey, shout out to Eric Bischoff. Woo!
And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, Maisy was making a really good point there, and Jake interrupted her to make a stupid joke that wasn't even funny, I agree.
Sorry, go on your point.
But yeah, I think that because wrestling is like basically dragification of what's happening in real life, like
Fight Club, gay.
That all that attitude stuff is really reflective of how people were feeling at the time.
Well,
like,
think of your Stone Cold Steve Austins of it all. When Stone Cold finally pops, like he gets over with the audience, he actually starts growing. He starts saying this line, and he starts getting over with what ends up being his biggest thing is fighting his boss. So you get that, and that's kind of the birth of Attitude Era.
So we want somebody to come in and do something different, and that's relevant to wrestling, and I brought it up on purpose. But because of that, like, we get around to Trump, and I do think that that's kind of like the natural progression type of feeling we end up here.
And I think with Trump, we are getting a convergence of all these aspects that worked well at getting public attention in a way that helped push people like Duke to success. And for a time, have their past and eccentricities overlooked. With Trump, there is a faux populism that we see from David Duke, America First, Pat Buchanan, a billionaire like Perot, acting like a mob boss, John Gotti, and of course, there's good old race baiting. I also think with Trump, there is, to a degree, a continuation of the neoliberalism that really began to gain popularity in American politics during the 80s and ran through the 90s. It's still going on. And it's a weird thing. I had to learn so much about neoliberalism, guys. Like, I haven't had to study political theory since undergrad. It's a fucking I enjoyed it. Like, I learned a lot, but Mays had to put up with a lot of talk about neoliberalism. We go all the way back to 1930 with Hayek.
I know so much about neoliberalism now.
Anyways, take, for example, the Trump admin enlisting billionaire Elon Musk to spearhead an effort to put government waste, with large portions of that so-called waste being made up of services and benefits that help the average American. I do think the administration has taken some anti-neoliberal stance as well. For example, the use of tariffs and challenging economic globalization come to mind. But for me, that just speaks less about keeping with neoliberalism and more about keeping up the appearance of being a strong man and playing into the mythos of what America is in the world.
But yeah, I think a lot of the things we're feeling today in the political consciousness are being felt in the 90s. Right now, we're just able to see a further point down the same path. Like I was saying before, Donald Trump embodies many of the same ideas that are being pitched and parodied by this book. He's basically teenage rebellion embodied in a 79-year-old man. If Turton were alive today, he wouldn't be inspiring Project Mayhem. He'd be wearing a MAGA hat, leading a group of disaffected young men through the streets, staging online harassment campaigns. He'd basically be Gavin McInnes. So that leads me perfectly into the crisis of masculinity we have in the 90s. Something that's swirling around in the culture is this idea that there's a, quote, crisis of masculinity. Tyler's quote in the bathtub scene, "We're just a generation of men raised by women. I doubt if another woman is what we really need," is just a reiteration of the anti-feminist sentiment that was one of the central responses to the late 20th century crisis in masculinity, which is a theme at this point that's been around for more than 100 years. The idea of the remasculinization of the American male began around the beginning of the 20th century, and it was epitomized by deeply symbolic cultural phenomena like Roosevelt's Rough Rider persona and the founding of the Boy Scouts of America. And it was a reaction to changes in the late 19th century in which the socialization and education of children became pretty much exclusively the responsibility of women. We have men moving out of like teaching and child rearing responsibilities. And this idea continues to echo through the culture, recurring over and over again continuously through the years.
You're telling me teaching and raising children isn't just a woman's job?
That's correct.
Jordan, as a teacher, are you aware about this?
It is interesting, though, that it still is odd in year 2026 that it's like you're gonna get it's a female. I'm one of 3, 4 males on the hallway compared. It's still a very heavy,
Do you think
position.
do you think that's could be someone as a you think that's a bad thing, a detriment, or like not really? Or
I've never understood why. I've never
well, she's
thought to
telling you why,
myself,
Jordan.
like,
So-
why.
But yeah, no, my undergrad degree is in speech language pathology, which is mostly aimed, at least in the school that I went to, it's mostly aimed towards children. That's definitely not all that they do, but like that's kind of the primary thing that people think of. And my entire class of comrades was women. Like we didn't have any men in the program at all. By the time I graduated. So yeah, I mean, that's reflected there as well. So in the early 20th century with Ted Roosevelt, the movement was characterized by a push towards this muscular Christianity and rugged individualism, and that was developed as a response to industrialization and urban white-collar jobs. Then in the 1930s, we have the Great Depression, where there's widespread unemployment, and this leads to feelings of emasculation as men cannot provide for their families anymore.
Speaking of the 1930s, I thought about this while I was thinking about the 80s and the impact it had on the wave. It's comparable to we romanticized the Roaring 20s.
Mhm.
And look at that those were the good times. Like we and again, what do we know about the Roaring 20s? Where they wore cocktail dresses and they had the what's the haircut? The
The
bob.
bobs, yeah.
People know one thing about this, like, and they always go, "Oh, the Great Gatsby."
Well, Gatsby, it's interesting to me. I would argue that Gatsby has a lot of qualities that we see in the anti-heroes of today, particularly the Sigma, this whole worshiping
Oh, I
of
thought
the
you were going
guy
to mean
who.
the collapse of the economy because of rich people. But yeah, whatever. Go do your thing.
Well, see, but you could say that's what Gatsby was supposed to be.
Right.
But some people will read Gatsby and say, "Now that's a guy who picked himself up by his bootstraps." It's like what? It's like no.
I do think you're hitting on something. That there is that individualism. Like it,
I truly believe you'd see him with the Patrick Batemans and the Tyler Durdens and the
and
Jokers.
they're all fuck boys.
On like on Twitter where it's like it'll like show a scene from a movie and it'll have like a motivational quote with it, like "Get out there and be somebody."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "It's Tyler Durden." And I always it's terrible for my algorithm. It's killing me. But I now I always react to these posts. I always comment, "Have you seen this movie? Have you read this book?" I'm constantly asking people, "Do y'all know who you're worshiping? Stop worshiping serial killers."
I'm glad you brought the algorithm thing because all the research and videos I've had to watch now, my algorithm is ruined. It's it's Manosphere, Clips and Fight Club, and American Psycho, The Joker, things like that, and then like clown girls.
Yeah.
Lots of clown women
Of
popping up in
course.
my feed.
I was gonna say another thing about the boom in the internet, I'm bringing it back to the '90s. I think about this disillusionment and, the whole idea of it becomes popular, it becomes commonplace for people to spend more time alone.
More time alone, but still more time in an echo chamber of your own bubble.
And yes, that was gonna get to that, and it's led to this echo chamber where you get to pick and choose your media
Yeah.
and what shapes you, and, I just find that to be very interesting the way it's, funneled its
Yeah.
way into the 21st century.
Yeah, because the internet it's you're more connected, but also more disconnected
Yes.
simultaneously. You
Yeah,
become
yeah.
less connected with the actual people around you.
And without going in, you don't run that risk of like, you leave your control group basically and you leave out there and there's less room for like of almost, a forced social interaction where someone might challenge you or at least make you think differently or meet someone who will bring you out of that bubble.
Right. Yeah.
But I personally, as someone who avoids people, I have to be really careful about my online communities.
Yeah, it's like surrounding yourself with a bunch of yes men.
Yeah. And
I
the
don't know who would
algorithm
do
of
that.
like every app is designed basically to funnel
Absolutely.
you further and further down this
Yes.
pipeline. So
Again, we just talked about
yeah.
where I'm heading. It's getting rough out there, guys.
But yeah, so this idea of remasculinization recurs throughout history. So, like I was saying, in the 1930s with the Great Depression, this prompts a shift towards valuing these hard physical bodies, both in culture and in literature. And that's as a replacement for economic breadwinning success that men are not capable of doing because they're all out of work. And then in the post Vietnam War era, men are feeling emasculated by the perceived failures of the war. And the reaction to it is we get all this popular culture trying to reconstruct masculinity with these hypermasculine action heroes like Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Mhm.
Sylvester Stallone, Chuck
Mhm.
Norris.
And Ross Perot. But I do want to bring up, since you brought up post-Vietnam War era, that's sort of what kind of goes on with Ross Perot's constant push behind the prisoner of war missing in action conspiracy theories.
Mhm.
Because, yes, it gets him out. There's little reasons, but I think a reason it really pulls on the strings of looking at resurrecting something that America lost in like losing Vietnam and everything.
With
like that.
Vietnam,
There's a
yeah.
recapturing of like this American pride. And
Well, could you make the argument that that you could see the counterculture that was formed from the Vietnam War and realize that if that could be taken and made mainstream and it be cool to be anti,
To be
and
rebellious, yeah.
yeah, so they kind of right there's where you start to see them realize the power.
I mean, there might actually be something to that where you've got all these people like hyped up, for lack of a better word, on like anti-war protesting, and they're like, okay, the war is over. We're still mad.
Right.
What are we gonna be mad about now?
Well, I think that we call this there's a word for it, disciplinary power, where it's like this idea of you control the people not through it's the oldest book. You want to convince someone that they're not in prison, or if you want to rule someone, make sure they don't know they're in prison or whatever that word is. So taking like the counterculture, I'll take like the those who were fighting the establishment, that became hip. That became the thing to do. And I think that they were able to find a way to push people in that direction
well, in all
intentionally.
fairness, they said in the last election or whatever that conservatism is now punk.
Yeah.
So maybe I personally have this feeling about when it comes to wars and everything. Yeah, there's often like this, at least with something like Vietnam, there was this like anti-war movement that comes on and everything, and there are definitely changes in politics made. But long term, I think wars often become a way for someone who's like a lot of people to use it as a way to push their base. Not an anti-war movement,
Yeah.
like even if they're being anti-war and everything, it becomes. I always take that with a grain of salt when it comes to war talk, because so many people, politicians, use it as a way to gain popularity. Bring the troops on when they don't really give a shit. And that's just me being a pessimist and everything. I don't. I'm always I'm always a little weirded out when I read anything or I hear anybody talking about wars and stuff as a way to garner public political attention. I know that might sound not sound like something but that's how I feel about it often. Bad. Bad.
We're bad.
You get what I'm getting at?
I think so, yeah.
We have short-term memories, even with something as horrible as war. Like, for example, do you guys know about the Gulf War?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people wouldn't, I don't think. Do you
You
know,
don't think of it as some kind of great war?
you don't. It's very short. It's only like 8
The
months.
kids these days do not know about the Gulf War.
Huh.
I would wager people from our time don't know about the Gulf. I would wager people from our time don't know much about the Vietnam War. They don't know about Iraq. They don't know about the 1992 attack on the World Trade Center.
They probably don't know that the World Trade Center was attacked before 9/11. Yeah,
They probably don't know that the Rock at one point was in the nation of domination.
No, Jake,
Prior to
everyone knows that.
No.
But yeah, so to get back into our politics here, by the end of the 20th century, the male hero of the modern day workforce is no longer defined in the image of the tightly hewn worker using his body and labor to create the necessities for everyday life. He's an obedient white collar worker, like our unnamed narrator. He works a 9 to 5 at a desk in an office building. So our narrator and Tyler become the perfect embodiment of these two battling masculine archetypes. We have the feminized man and the masculinized man. While the narrator represents the crisis of capitalism repackaged as the crisis of a domesticated masculinity, Tyler represents the redemption of masculinity, which is then repackaged as the promise of violence in the interests of social and political destruction.
And it's just kind of hitting me here. With the repackaged as the promise of violence. Violence to me is like it's the repackaged promise of it. And it's always there. Like it's the answer, the cause, the falling out and everything. Even we're moving to a more feminized society for like your office workers, everything. It's still people like to, I guess, romanticize in a lot of ways this violence, like how it goes between this hypermasculinity. But when it boils down to it, like they often forget the brutality of it, the pain and suffering of loss. And like, for example, you look in the book, you take someone like Big Bob, who's murdered. And like you get this whole kind of idea dealing with Tyler Durden and everything and through the things like you don't mean shit until you die. And then when you die, though, you become something useful in a different way. You become a myth. You could paint that. It happened with the Nazis, for example. That's
Well, yeah, it's like Kierkegaard says.
Shut up, Jordan.
You gotta drop a quote, man. Says the tyrant dies, his rule is over. The martyr dies, his rule begins.
And what people like paramilitary groups or people with these like strongman attitudes, fascist.
They're big on martyrdom.
They're big on martyrdom. It doesn't matter the true story because Bob does not die magnificently.
No.
He dies being shot running from cops, which I'm not saying that's a bad way because sometimes you get shot by cops when you're doing the right thing. But this is just wanton violence.
But I mean, but you could say I love the detail in the when the recruits have to come, they have to have everything ready to be buried.
It's called brainwashing.
Yeah, but I love how he mentions that before, and that I love that foreshadowing where it's just like, oh, we're about to get in some shit.
Things are about to take a much darker turn from this
Right.
point.
It's like, oh, we're not just doing some gardening in the backyard.
And immediately when I started reading that, as someone who loves cults, you start getting that of breaking that person down. Like, and it's not just, it's a slow process. You're standing out, no sleep,
Yep.
no food for 3 days.
After being told, go home.
Your will is broke. Yeah. And if you do that, I think that comes like, it's hard. It paints this thing where it's hard, like any cult, once you get that point, leaving is admitting you're wrong. And we know people can't admit they're wrong when they even vote for an outright fucking fascist. But that's just me.
I was going to say one thing the book could not deliver that the movie just did. I love the line when the guy's having to go. He's got about 3 or 4 guys out there, and he's just finding reasons. He's like, "You're too old," because even the book it says if he's old, tell him he's too old. If he's fat, tell him he's too fat. If he's skinny.
If you're too white, if you're white, you're too white. If you're black, you're too black. Yeah.
Well, I love when the guy's having to do it, and he's like, "You're too old. And then he looks at Jared Leto and he's like, "You're too fucking blonde." Like, I just love that line.
And actually, that leads into one of the best parts in the movie where Jared Leto gets his fucking face smashed in. You know what? Let me say this. The one thing the movie did right was give us Jared Leto getting his face smashed in. Am I right? A cult leader.
I'm beginning to see why we look up to the Patrick Bateman and the Tyler Durden, or at least Edward Norton's role. We get to see them take out Jared Leto.
Jared Leto really needs his shit rocked one good time.
Sometimes an ultra-violent white man.
It really is the hero we've been looking for.
It's like a broken clock. It's right twice a day.
Every once in a while. Ted Kaczynski.
Hey, you leave my man Kaczynski out of this.
So, while Chuck Palahniuk's book was released in 1996, the movie by David Fincher was released in 1999, which is an interestingly, a pretty significant year for culture, especially for things young men are paying attention to. So on February 12th, we have President Bill Clinton acquitted by the Senate in his impeachment trial.
Woo! Taking advantage of people under you. Woo, Clinton.
Woo! February 23rd, Eminem releases The Real Slim Shady, or the Slim Shady LP.
Okay. The Slim Shady LP. All right, how dare you?
I'm so sorry. You threw me off. I misspoke.
When you speak of the Great White Hope,
Oh
all right,
my
you
God.
get these albums correct, but you can't even name them all.
I cannot name them all.
But I could.
All right. And then on March 24th, we have The Matrix premiering.
That's interesting.
Which, despite being a movie about trans women, is something that a lot of teen boys, white boys.
Are you
like.
saying there's another movie that teenage boys didn't understand?
Yeah, I didn't
It's
understand
like-
the nuance.
They're a rather dumb demographic at this time.
But it is, again, I'm just going to mention this again, the same disillusionment concept. You could say that Neo in the Matrix has a very similar job to our narrator in Fight Club.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
So it gives you that idea of like, oh, you're just in the office slaving away for some boss who doesn't care.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, not be masking what he truly is.
so yeah, this whole idea of like you have to find who you really are, and that's well, Neo's is a little different. He's just getting out of there. Our narrators is like you must destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
have to
it's
you
like-
have to destroy not only yourself but also what society at that time
Yes.
even is.
Yeah.
It takes a step further, I think, because you're not. This isn't like a simulated world. This is the real world you're trying to
Yeah,
show of these real
that's the
people.
difference.
The violence is the answer. Like, I'm deep. The violence is the answer. But
The violence is the
killing
answer.
anyone or destroying anything, that's it garners attention and everything. But that's kind of the point.
Mhm.
Anyways.
Yeah, and on April 20th, 420, which is also incidentally Jake's dad's birthday.
And Hitler's.
I-
My father reminds me every time. Hey, happy
Yeah.
birthday! It's Hitler's birthday as well. That's not a
I
brag.
did not know. I did not know it was on April 20th. It's just not something I ever thought about. I know it's that time of year, but I
Yeah.
did not know April 20th was the anniversary for Columbine.
Yep, Columbine. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold kill 13 and injure 24 before committing suicide at Columbine High School in Colorado. Our next big young boy event is on May 19th. We have Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
That doesn't
Epic.
seem equal. I like it like epic, good movie. Thing about the tragedy at Columbine.
I mean,
Just
Columbine
two-
happened.
It happened. Oh, it happened.
It is interesting how you're starting to see this disillusionment come to life, and people are beginning to act. Seeing what they're seeing in the mythos, as
Yeah.
you said. Kind of taking that on, like the time to buck the system. How do I? The only way I know how to do that is with violence.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, my next event on my list, July 22nd, the Woodstock 99 Music Festival
No.
begins, where it famously ends in a riot of mostly young white men.
Living the
again,
dream.
Yeah, another consequence of that disillusionment people are
you know what?
feeling.
I'm gonna give him a pass. You put Limp Bizkit on a stage,
It's gonna
mayhem will
it's
come.
just gonna
Bass
happen,
Limp
man.
Bizkit, Fred Durst, baby. And you start that off with our national hero, Kid Rock. Woodstock does break down in this anger. There are all kinds of people there, I guess. But at the end, like you point out, even watching that recent documentary with you,
Mhm.
it becomes this outburst of anger by mostly men,
Yeah.
mostly white men, where you're pointing out, and it amazes me that something like the end was at July. The year's almost over, and this entire last year of the decade has been big movies and violence.
Yeah.
And no good movies really. I'm not a Matrix fan either, guys. I don't like anything apparently.
Hmm.
I know you. Don't forget, October 15th, Fight Club is released in theaters.
Yeah, Fight Club is released in theaters on October 15th of 1999. We also have the Y2K scare happening during this time as
Yeah.
well. People are becoming more distrustful of technology and the government. And while the economy is still good, you have a lot of people feeling like they had done everything right to be successful and as defined by capitalism and the American dream. And yet still they're struggling and dealing with feelings of emptiness. The 90s was one of the most rapidly changing cultural eras as well, with the birth of the internet and the online space. And it probably felt like a lot of men were being left behind or not given enough time to find their place in society as it was surging into the internet age, like we were talking about earlier.
Speaking of the American dream, starting with, because in our last book club we talked about Fear and Loathing in the American Dream and how Hunter S. Thompson views it, and we get to this point where he's looking back on the hippie and counterculture movement and how it fails. He sees that high watermark, And he sees it as this entire viewing from the lens of being an outsider and a person who had put hope in a counterculture. Whereas Fight Club's narrator, who has dedicated their life to being on the inside of capitalism and what is expected in the terms of being successful, he's coming to terms with the failure of the system. Like, not just like the American dream and something with a counterculture movement, the economic system itself, something that provides his life with sustenance, the money to buy things marquee and everything. And it's not bringing him any happiness. He's where he's going to be. That's it. You know, he doesn't have he doesn't have any like pool or anything. He's just your average American. And he's coming to terms with that. I think that's the American dream crashing on him, is that there's nothing left.
Yeah.
This is it. This is your life.
Yeah.
You're going to get up in the morning, go sit in a fucking cubicle or office if you're lucky, I guess. And you're going to come around and sit down and watch, your big screen TV and watch some subpar media, probably. You get that?
Yeah. I do get that.
It's a real letdown, honestly.
Yeah.
I will say, I find it kind of interesting that we teach the American dream or the death of it with an argumentative essay in American literature. And guess what story we wrap it around? The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
Which is exactly to me, I truly think of The Great Gatsby as the Fight Club. The way Fight Club was a reaction to the disillusionment from the wave that came from the 80s to the 90s. I believe The Gatsby was its critique of the American dream of its time after seeing that break from the 20s to the 30s. So a lot of people would say it's the great American novel. I would suggest that it's The Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck. I think it's a much better representation of what America would become. So I've always appreciated that. But yeah, so speaking of which, just the concept of Great Gatsby being the Fight Club of its time. Yeah, I think so.
All right. So one of the major themes of the book, or at least the main thing that Tyler asserts throughout the novel, is this idea that men are inherently violent and require violence in order to feel complete. Now, Tyler Durden believes that men have become emasculated by modern society and capitalism, and that they've forgotten what it means to be a real man, which, in Tyler's view, means experiencing pain and causing others to experience pain, basically to be hurt and to hurt people in response. In his first fight with the narrator, Tyler says, "How can you know yourself if you've never been in a fight? I don't want to die without any scars."
Speaking of this, like, experiencing pain and causing others experience pain, that kind of going back to how I mentioned early on, we used to have these things where we had boxing gloves. We're very physical with one another. And I can remember, even though I have a horrible memory, I remember more moments like that with my friends being physical and intimate, like, actually in that way. There wasn't like, I can't remember a time when I was just like hugging one of my friends or speaking about what they're going through on an emotional level. But I do remember plenty of times getting out there and working out this frustration with your friends. And sometimes, like, it's not mad at each other. It's just literal kind of like, it's a weird bonding.
Right.
Like, we're out there, we're wrestling, we're hitting each other, sometimes causing real pain and injuries. Like, there have been times where friends have had to go to the doctor for something we did. And yet it rarely did anything. It never hurt our relationships. If anything, it made us kind of bond in a more, like, I got your back kind of way. Like, hey, ride or die, baby.
Right.
It kind of has that effect on you. It becomes like your tribe, your brothers and everything like that.
But wouldn't you say that toughness, you proving to your friend, your tribe, if you will, like, you want to show that you are worthy because look at what I can do. Tyler Durden might say, look at who I am, look at these scars.
Well, I think
these scars are who I am. That's what they try to teach with like this whole, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
it kind of falls into this whole like rugged individual warrior culture and everything.
And
like, look what you can take. Look what you can do with your body.
And tell
Yeah.
what I've been through.
Yeah, I don't need your emotional baggage. You don't need that. Why are you depressed? You can get out there and use your physical body to make something happen. Good or bad, you can be physical.
Yeah, I do think that this is a really good point, especially like through this podcast, like doing the interviews, listening to all the episodes and everything, because I'm editing them all, and then doing research for our episodes and things like that. There does seem to be this prevailing idea that men process their feelings through physicality, like through sports,
Punching a
through
wall.
punching, through violence, through running, going to the gym, things like that, or even
exerting energy, pushing yourself to the limit.
Yeah, whereas I think the more stereotypical idea for how women process their feelings is through like talking to each other or journaling. It's more verbal, it's less physical. I don't really have like a conclusion from that, but I do think it's
No,
I
I
can
interesting.
think
play
a perfect
devil's advocate. The women do it too. They work out their problems.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
There's
I wanna say I think what she's getting at, it's more common for men to use physical exertion or just be physicality
Mhm.
to avoid having to speak out their emotions, everything.
so
It's a way
they
for like, for example, I'm a perfect example of
keep
that
the mind
when I'm
keeping the
anxious
wheels spinning.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
like, for example, I was using myself as an example. Like, when I get incredibly anxious, I go to the gym,
Yeah,
and it's a way to just kinda, it's for me to clear my head. It's
yeah.
where I go to just be physical, burn off this excess kind of anxiety and everything. Now, I might come back as I've gotten healthier, I now come back and able to think about it in a more clear head. But for a long time, that was just me, let me exhaust myself.
But there's
And
nothing
they
wrong with putting yourself in what you know is the right headspace.
no, there's nothing wrong
You
with it.
know,
I'm saying
that's your method.
no, but I think the main point is some people don't go beyond that. They're just using it as a way to be physical.
Oh, that's
It's
it.
how
Now
it's
it's
all it
done.
is.
Yeah.
I'm so
Whereas
tired.
I think
I'm too tired to even care about it
yeah,
now.
and I think,
Yeah.
but I don't think I could be speaking out. I don't think it's seen as the common thing for women to do that. Women are working out,
Okay.
I think, more of a health and being fit
Right.
and everything like that. Not to say they don't do that. I
Mhm.
think it's just seen by society more of different lights why men work out and why women work out.
Yeah.
Well, women,
Yeah, tell me
can
about women, Jordan.
can be alone with their thoughts because, well, that's where they need to be, at home alone with their thoughts and the baby.
And I know you're joking about that, but I think society lends itself to pushing women to be more capable of thinking for themselves because they are put in those situations.
Yeah, I do
It's
agree.
forced them to be more emotionally mature. And I know I just cut off the only woman in the audience to talk about a women's approach.
Hey, shut
I'm
up.
like, hey,
Let me
shut
tell
up, my
you
man's
let me
talking.
tell you about women.
But pull it back to you. What do you think? You think that's like why like they have to learn to be more open because they're dealing with the more communal kind of part of society?
Yeah, I do think that, yeah. Women are often expected to like be able to do all the jobs, like wear all the hats in the family, basically, like be able to do everything.
Not the man's hat.
Whereas men just have to do like the one, like go to the job. Whereas women have to do all the problem solving, all the home management, all the child rearing, probably also going to an actual job, cleaning the house, cooking the food, deciding what food is going to be cooked, like all of these other things. So I think the traditional gender roles, women are having to do a lot more isolated processing, I think maybe for lack of a better term. Like they're having to process things constantly in real time and come up with solutions in real time. Whereas I think men kind of get siloed, at least in this like traditional quote unquote family model.
Yeah, I'm going to speak from personal. Jordan can jump in as well. Yeah, I don't remember like any like. No, I had like physical chores given on me and everything. I'm using this from a chores perspective.
Mhm.
I compare most of my chores, outside of taking out the garbage, were like physical in way. You're weed eating, you're mowing the grass, you're chopping wood or something like that. You're doing things like that. Don't get me wrong. My sisters would join in, but often they also had on top of that more like housebound chores as well. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
my father was someone who goes like everyone does yard work and everything like that. But they also use like I'm saying they
Equality.
had chore for as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like
But was there a job that was like, no, Jake doesn't have to do that because he's the man? Like
I
the
don't think it was never brought to
did you
say
outgrow the dishes? Where it's like, no, he doesn't have to
it
do
was
the
like
dishes.
we had moments where everyone chores house, but that it kind of became like
Who did laundry in your house?
not me.
Okay.
When I moved out at 16, I did my laundry.
Okay. Yeah.
Like my mom still does it when I go to her house, but that's because
Well,
like
your mom loves laundry.
my
so
mom
your
loves
mom's an
fucking laundry. My
angel?
mom is an
Yeah.
angel. Anyone speaks ill of Michelle, and that's so fucking help me God.
It's on site.
But yeah, no, there was never explicitly said, but I do remember at some point like those chores kind of falling off until I moved out and had to start doing it on my own again. Now there were jobs that my sisters never had to do, like moving like dead animal bodies.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I was wondering where that was going. All right.
Like there were jobs like that. It was like that's purely a guy job. That's a man's job. Get out there and do it.
Mhm.
Especially if it dealt something with lifting heavy objects. My father saw me. Well, you're like a workhorse. Get out there. Go. So yeah, there is that. I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't develop some of these things. I do. I think what helps me is that when I moved out, I had to start doing them myself, anyways.
Mhm.
And let me be clear, not once did any of my guy friends be like, "Actually, Jake, you shouldn't put your clothes together like that. You need to split them out and everything." No, it was a woman who was like, "What are you doing?"
I literally got shamed just recently sitting around, like, within the last couple of years, uh, of how I do my laundry. I was like, "You can't wash your jeans with your whites?" And they're like, "No, what is wrong with you?" I was like, "What? It's just it's not gonna
You
bleed or
washing
whatever,
your
I don't think."
denim and other things.
I do have a trick. I throw one blue shirt in, like, a dark blue, with my whites. It gives it that hue. It does bleed enough. And I'm telling you that blue, just enough blue lines in. Keep all this in, by the way. Keep all this in. You're welcome, people.
Back to you, Mace.
All right. So, when the fight clubs slowly begin to build up in franchise, Tyler comes up with several rules for the clubs to operate. But the driving sentiment behind Tyler's life philosophy comes when he says things like self-improvement is masturbation, self-destruction is the answer, and it's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. For Tyler, physical violence is the necessary foundation for masculinity, and collective terrorism is his only political ideology.
I think it's because violence is simple for the most part.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think anyone's going to read a Fight Club and walk away. That Tyler guy, he's got some real in-depth ideas and everything. Violence for Chuck Palahniuk, it's the simplest answer. Chuck Palahniuk is not the writer that's going to sit there and write out like an in-depth, well, here's how like Tyler Durden should approach the change of society. He's like, no, violence, edginess. I say catchy one-liners, basically. Like, the line self-improvement is masturbation. That is some fucking nonsense that I would hear from like
That was one
Tate.
of the
Or
that was one of the lines that I read and said, I can't believe I'm reading this fucking book. Like,
but the thing is, I think wording, but phrases like that are like something you'd easily hear in like a self-improvement man thing, or whatever. Or like, yeah,
It does feel very manosphere.
did that come because of this though? Or
Peterson
is it like
would
the
say
chicken
some
and
shit
the
like
egg?
this. Jordan Peterson would be
Or
like,
is
you gotta
this-
make your bed.
Is this life imitating the art of Fight Club, or was this
I
Chuck
think
E.
I
P's
don't know
way
if it's
of-
I don't know if it's so much imitating. It's just
capturing what was he could see the disillusionment
I don't know
in a
if
bottle?
I do actually
so it
think
makes
that.
me wonder.
Yeah,
I
he's
also-
capturing what people are feeling at the time. That's my opinion, anyway.
some of that. But if we're comparing it to now, I think why you see so much now is because a lot of people who use this lack creativity. They can only go so far. Like, they may not be consciously taking this from Fight Club and everything, but the vibe and energy and like what Fight Club kind of represents, at least on a upper, like a shallow level, is easily to like imitate, even if poorly. So like, because they don't have, I personally don't think, like, again, I bring up Tate or something like that, they don't have the creativity to think outside of the norms of like your stereotypical violence and masculinity and everything like that.
Mhm.
So when we take fight, is this making sense?
I think so, yeah.
So like the Fight Club now, like they don't get it now, and then they're also doing poor imitations of it, and they don't even realize it, and they can't. They don't have the creativity to move on and do their own thing.
But is it supposed to represent a level like a primal level of like breaking you down to grunts again, like to the most basic?
Again, I think that's more.
Like, what would a child do when he gets angry? They throw temper tantrums. They get angry. Or they get violent. And it's almost meant to be. He says it's only after you've lost everything can you have, or can you do anything. Is this a way of saying, like, break it down? Let's get back to basic.
No,
let's go back to stones and sticks and stones.
There is some of that.
And break some
There is
bones.
some of that because in the book he talks about hunting elk outside the Rockefeller Center and shit like that, and I think that is there. But that's just more this high, like romanticizing the idea of like society changing, going back to a simpler
to the way
times and
things
everything like
were.
that.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think those people actually want that. Yeah, because you can be violent all day, but do you know how to start a fucking fire without a lighter?
That's
Like,
yeah.
and
It's
I-
always funny when you think of these guys who want to like be Henry David Thoreau.
They romanticize it. Like, for
Yeah.
example, leading up to a lot of wars in history, people romanticize it. Like, you take the Civil War, there were a lot of people who thought this is going to be like people were fucking picnicking at the first battle of the Civil War and everything like that.
Yeah, it was.
They
just-
romanticize it until the violence in the actual outcome, like I was saying earlier,
well,
is confronted that.
Yeah.
And then your violence is important then, but you've already started the catalyst with violence.
there's always been a history of violence as late as the late. I can't remember if it rolled into the 20th century or not, but late 19th century, people in France were still gathering to watch the mutilation of like a body because it was like the punishment. It was the capital punishment. And people would gather like it was like a sporting event, like a football game on Saturday.
Look, you're not going to hear me say that's not true, that people have this morbid fascinations with public
With-
executions.
Yeah.
Oh, they
or
really
like,
do.
and violence. in
I mean, if
general.
what happened, I'm like, look, hey, we're popping down to the center. that politician we don't like today.
So again, it just brings me back to this idea of like, is violence the most primitive, but it's still there?
I think
So-
violence is easy.
Anyone trying to, of course.
But now let me be clear. I don't think violence is like.
You've lost the argument once you have to hit.
I say it's easy, but I don't think violence is a cowardice act.
Yeah.
not like at its
Yeah,
barest form.
violence is useful for certain things.
Violence, even violent protest is a must at times. I'm not
Mhm.
like I'm not gonna sit here. I'm like some pure pacifist or anything like that. Violence, personally, I think is necessary at times. To me, though, it is an outright simple act. It's easy to throw a fist and everything. It's much harder, and it's cliche to sit down and have a, an actual purposeful conversation.
To actually
But
sit
also,
and
when you
think
look at
about
that,
what
you
you're
take it
doing.
our terms now, and you take a protester who might be violent or acting like resisting, like they're doing it for like we can say a moral cause and everything like that. Whereas you
Right.
take government outreach and they're just being violent because they have the power.
Right.
That's when you get to like take
There's
Waco.
nuance.
You take a Waco situation. You have a cult. You have like, and get me wrong, you do have a pedophilic leader and
Mhm.
David Koresh and everything like that. But at the same time, then you have a government overreach that over answers the problem, like,
Oh,
over
yeah.
answers, you get my point. They go
Right.
into it,
Violence
and they had
is met
multiple
with
chances to
violence.
pull back, but the government itself becomes a dick measuring contest between the men in that, and it's men who make this worse through violence.
Mhm.
And there are moments where it could have been handled differently, but the easiest answer was violence.
Yeah.
I'm getting on my pedestal right now. I'm sorry.
No.
I'll shut up.
No, that's okay. It's a good point, though.
Which, to be fair, this does remind me of this meme where the guy says, "Guys, violence is not the answer. Just look at history," and it shows the cult, and he's
Violence.
like, and it's like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, I got." It's like-
Maybe violence is the answer, guys. So later in the book and movie, as Tyler's actions become more and more extreme, we're brought to the natural conclusion of his destructive ideology. We get murder, terror, and destruction of anyone and everything around them.
And that's what happens with unregulated violence.
Yep. The machismo that Tyler Durden preaches both in his fight clubs and as the head of Project Mayhem is designed specifically to create blind followers conditioned for high levels of violence who have no ability for critical analysis or dialogue.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah,
the
don't.
first rule of Fight Club is that we're not
Exactly.
going to talk about it.
And don't
And
ask
don't
questions.
ask questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that one of them?
Yeah, despite his major critiques of society, government, and capitalism, Tyler is using the same old tactics that they've always used to create a military, but now it's for himself and his ideology, which honestly feels like to me like a lot of what the manosphere and incel grifters are doing today.
And not even just that. I think it goes beyond just that level. I think that's a popular method to gain attention. Again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but the Trump of it all, you have a guy who does use this kind of like, they use like, I want to go back to like the myths of like a strong man and everything or violence. They use
Mhm.
violence against immigrants to create these blind followers conditioned, like you're saying, for high levels of violence. And who have no ability for critical analysis,
Mhm.
or maybe not. It's not that they may not have the ability. It's just at that point when you're like again in cults when you're broken down, you don't. It's not that you can't think. Well, you can't really. Your ability to do so has been taken away from it, stripped. Because again, we're using Trumpism. If you speak out even the slightest, if you're not for the party at all times,
Then
Yeah.
you're
against it.
Yeah,
And
think of
then
what happened with Marjorie Taylor.
Yeah, Martin Taylor Greene. As soon as you
Very
step out of line,
interesting.
because
Yeah.
it's not
And
so
now
much.
you've been outcast.
Mhm.
Because
You're
the
outcast.
the actual because like these people don't to me don't have like a concrete ideology. It morphs and bends to whatever they need in the
They
moment.
see.
Fascism.
Yeah.
They're okay with having a gay person on the team as long as they serve the method. But as soon as that thing, well, not so much anymore.
Yeah, gotta
They
get
get
him
real
outta here.
Jack Bootish about it.
Mm-hmm.
Very Machiavellian.
Machiavellian,
to
yeah.
the tense, and which is a similar. It's a reoccurring characteristic in antiheroes.
Yeah.
Is this whole he's not a bad guy. He just did what he had to do. That is usually there.
That's
and
when
so I find that to be interesting that we're seeing.
yeah,
that.
I do like that line. He had to, the ends justify the means or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Mhm.
Kind of falls into that in just a ham-fisted way for me.
Very much, very much.
Of course. Well, that it was written. It was paid to be written so that it could support the family. And I'm missing the name of the family right now. I'm kicking myself for that. But the actual Italian family that paid for it, they're one of the most famous ones.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they paid him to do that. So I learned in philosophy class, at least my professor at the time said that it's not a credible source. Never use Machiavelli as a credible source, at least the Prince, because it was paid. It'd be like Trump paying Jordan Peterson to say, "Hey, tell him I look good. Tell him I'm good.
Mhm.
Everything I do, tell him that's what you're supposed to be."
So I'm sure most of you know that Fight Club is a big inspiration for and darling of the manosphere movement. Now, in case you're unfamiliar, the manosphere is an umbrella term for masculinist online communities that promote this really narrow and aggressive definition of what it means to be a man, and they believe that feminism has come at the cost of men's rights. Now, Fight Club may have been intended to critique and satirize a common sentiment with angry young men of the time, but instead it became a cult favorite of men who resonated with this alienated male toxicity and anti consumerist rebellion. Often these fans cast the alleged capitalist oppression of men in anti Semitic, homophobic, and misogynistic terms. Now, because of the way that American men are raised and taught to behave, men often lack community and connection, which is something that causes them to increasingly seek refuge and belonging in online communities, like what Jordan was saying earlier about the advent of the internet. Unfortunately, these communities tend to be breeding grounds for misogynist extremism, painting women and or minorities and other marginalized groups as the cause of all of their personal shortcomings and failures. In Fight Club, Tyler Durden says, "We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. And we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off."
I have to say, I went and pulled that quote up. I wanted to have it to talk about at some point when the time was right.
Yeah.
And I will admit, for all of its machismo and all, I love that line.
No, I was about to
loved
say,
it
it
when
hits.
I first watched the movie. I loved it when I reread it. I went and copied the whole thing, the "We're the middle children, we have no great war, no great depression." I cut out the one part. I even made a note. I was going to mention it if I read it to you guys. I hate that last part. And we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off. And that's the part where I rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh, I love this self-awareness, man. I'm like, yeah, that's great. And now it's like, and now that I'm self-aware, I'm gonna hurt everyone. I'm like, oh, well, you missed the boat, buddy. You missed it.
I get no, and I get that and everything, and like it is a good line because like when I was reading it, like and just thinking of my own kind of position with like how I feel, like I think there is a lot of that. I don't have a purpose. Like it's easy for me to sort of like what like I get up and do a corporate work every day. Where's the benefit in that? I'm not outside enjoying nature. I'm not creating. I'm just working on a product, and honestly, it's not going to hurt the world if I don't do. It kind of
Yeah,
feels.
you have your days where you feel like, man,
And that's why that last line when it goes,
did not
and we're
contribute
slowly
anything.
learning that fact, and we're very pissed off. Like that line doesn't bother me because yeah, there are days I am just like I'm done with everything and I'm pissed off. So that line doesn't bother me so much.
So everybody has bad days. That's the interesting thing. It's like, how many bad days do you have to have before you're finally like, fuck it. I'm gonna, me and my opposite personality are going to just burn down buildings.
Well, I think the Joker said one bad day.
Yeah, all it is. Yeah,
One
you're
bad
right.
day.
In the Dark Knight,
We're getting edgy again.
he says, I mean, that's this point he's trying to make, though, but fails in the movie. That's supposed to be the good part, is that he fails in saying everyone's just one bad day away from anarchy.
Yeah.
You
So-
get that line from a comic book, The Killing Joke. Just want to put that out. Just saying.
Yeah, that was a main influence for that movie.
No, I was just agreeing with you and adding that, like, I personally get that sense of purposelessness. Like, and it can be, it's so, like, because it's someone who wants to do something they love and enjoy, and then they have to get up and seemingly waste their life on something that is no great import to the world. And I'm not saying you got to be of great import, but it helps to feel like you're doing something you enjoy.
And it's nice to be recognized. It's nice to feel that what you're doing is making a difference.
Yeah, I think yeah, definitely. I think that helps. If you feel like you're doing it, like even if you're not out there saving the world or anything, it feels good to know something you're doing is helping in some way or makes someone feel good. Like if I hear one person who listens to this podcast and goes, "Hey man, that really like made my day," I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I did a good job. Good job." I'm gonna go get me a little treat from like an ice cream shop or something and make myself feel good. Like, "Fuck, you did a good job, Jake." And that's. And even though it's not giving $1 million or anything, for someone to tell me they enjoyed something I put out, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I made their day better. And that's more important than sitting there and running numbers.
You realize that you made a difference.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder this. I remember thinking this with Patrick Bateman. It's a desperation to be seen. Look at what I can do, right? He's like, you don't respect me. You're not looking at me, but I can make you if I show you with these events, I've always thought that's like the core problem with these violent people, whether it gets to killing or just being out in the street. You want to show someone, look what I can do. You will acknowledge me, and I do think that comes from a deep feeling of purposelessness, or at least not being
Yeah.
recognized by your fellow men and women.
And this idea just came, and I could be way off. You can tell me if I'm wrong. This idea of them using violence, and carnage to tear down society as it is, I think they might see it as some way, or at least the guys who would appeal to this kind of thing of resetting society. The idea of setting everyone back to the same starting block. Yeah, because like a lot of these guys, I think, especially in the like the online communities, like where they're in this bubble that's toxic and everything like that. A lot of them, they feel like they're missing out because of everyone else. And I think going back then, resetting to the starting block is not so much putting everyone equal as like setting it back to a time period in which they feel like the world is fair to them.
Yeah.
It's all about breaking
everyone
it
else
back
be
down.
damned. Well, but only breaking to a point where they're the ones in power and control, the ones where they are special and unique. This is where they are the unique and special ones. They are the men they kind of imagine in their heads. That make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
I hate that. I do that all the time.
Yeah, it's a habit.
I do that with my students, and I feel bad if you think about it. Some people could get rubbed that the wrong way. Could get rubbed
because
the
they
wrong
might
way.
take it as like you don't think they're getting
Do
it.
you understand? Did that make sense to you?
I think it's a tone.
That's how it comes off.
Hey, does that
But,
make
but I'm
sense
like
to
you, Jake. I know exactly how you feel. You're asking it out of your own
I need some.
uncertainty.
Yeah.
Did what I say just make sense as it came out of my mouth?
Yeah.
I do the same thing, and I always let my students know. It's like, y'all, I just want to let you know, I'm not questioning y'all's intelligence. I'm literally wanting to make sure that I'm saying it in a way that it's getting to y'all.
Yeah.
So I get it.
I appreciate it.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So back to talking about the manosphere. Comments online suggest that many men involved in these communities do believe that their generation, in fact, has a great war to wage, and it's against women. When confronted with institutional failures and a lifetime of rejection over which they hold no control or power, they resort to individualized violence. Representations of violence, masculinity, and gender in Fight Club seem all too willing to mirror the pathology of individual and institutional violence that informs the American landscape, extending from all manner of hate crimes to the far-right celebration of paramilitary and proto-fascist subcultures. The rebellion against the forces of disempowerment ends up copying its enemy.
The nerds and losers.
And everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Shut up, Jordan.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm sorry, I can't quote the book we read.
Violence appears as a constant in Fight Club. It demonstrates how men, when disconnected from themselves and one another, can be pushed to engage in risk-taking, violent, and destructive behaviors in hopes of reconnecting with their true selves. Dispossessed by institutional power, the characters in Fight Club choose reactionary misogyny and violence as the way to, quote-unquote, take their power back. Tyler and Fight Club participants blame women and femininity for their lack of manliness. They believe that how women display themselves and interact with men is at fault for turning these men into what they are.
Wait.
Yes, Jake.
What?
Look at that. Oh, that dress she has on. It's got a slit that goes way up, clean up to her, her thigh or something like that. I can't imagine. Look, I feel so much less of a man. Women, they're in the workplace with me? How dare.
Well, I think, is it something about the idea of like, again, not feeling appreciated?
What do you mean by not feeling appreciated?
I mean, like, I can relate right now. But not being, it's this idea of like a woman, when a woman breaks your heart and then you want to show her, well, I don't really care about you. So it's almost like it's not.
Are you saying they get dumped, or like a woman owns her, like as herself, and then all of a sudden a man is like,
I just found it
"Oh,
interesting
how
that the
dare you."
reaction was this sort of celibate feeling, like just forget about it. And it's almost like an admitting, well, I don't need her. Who needs her?
That's ignoring
anyway?
your emotions. I feel like when you
Of
do that, it's
course.
ignoring what's going on. And you're like, and again, violence or being, masculine is the way to get over it. Blame the woman, or like, like, I can't think of anything right now I would say bad about a woman. But yeah, it's easier to blame the woman and resort to not even dealing with that. I don't love you anymore. I don't need you. Bye, you're a whore.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to be like that instead of like, well, I never fucking put the toilet seat down or some shit. That's stupid. To cut that out. But like,
You hurt my feelings, and now.
And now, fuck you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's that simple. It's like, I don't, and it's funny. I'm gonna have to bring it to this. I just read the poem, My Last Duchess,
Mhm.
And the whole concept is he possesses this portrait of his last Duchess, who is the most beautiful woman. He's like, look how beautiful she was, and he's like, but she smiled at everyone, and he got jealous. And long story short, he like tongue in cheek says, well, I got tired of her smiling to the others, so I did some things, and now she smiles no more. And it's like he possessed her. He's like, you're not going to do what I want you to do. Now you need to go away. And to him, it's because
Yeah, she's allowed to be beautiful until it makes him feel insecure.
Right,
the
exactly.
interesting part that made me think of this was he comments he's a duke because it's his Duchess, and he says, even if I could talk to her and fix this, even if I were willing to let her know this is how I feel, and if this were to change her behavior, I still wouldn't do it because dukes don't stoop to that level. So he makes the comment. He ignores his feelings because that's beneath.
And I want to say, I think the common thread a lot of these guys we're talking about here
Very
have.
much.
Why stoop to that woman's level?
Yeah.
Why let her know that anything she does affects me?
And even if I do tell her, I dare cross that threshold to tell her how I actually feel, she should know. It should be like, how dare she in the first place give this attention or this happiness to someone who's not me?
Well, and it's a vulnerability thing.
Yeah.
To someone who already feels unappreciated in a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job.
It's just an add-on. It's just another thing.
And this is just another thing that makes me realize that I don't matter.
But it's easier to blame a woman or a minority for that issue than take a look at the system. It's easier to be violent against them. It's harder to be violent against something as abstract as a corporation, which is, I guess, capitalism. Thank you, not corporation, capitalism.
Well, it's the other guy. It's what Trump got famous for. Like, he wrote the book, like...
Talking about the art of making the deal, that book?
Well, no, but I mean, find the other guy. The other.
Yeah, the other.
And blame it on them. Someone else did
Now
it.
you're just getting like authoritarianism and all that.
I can't remember. I feel like it's happened a few times in history.
Just once or twice. There's always been this almost like othering that is like
taking that other and saying it's their fault, and if I just show them why they don't matter, because we both can't matter. I have to matter,
so they can't matter.
For me to matter, you can't.
Yeah, simple way to handle why my life's not the way it should be. Oh no, look at me! Oh, look at these minorities making my life hard.
What voice is that?
You don't like his voice?
I love it. Like, why haven't you been doing this more often?
All right. So from the first scene of Fight Club to the last, women are cast as the binary opposite of masculine. Women are both the other and a form of pathology. Tyler consistently tells Jack that men have lost their manhood because they've been feminized. They are, quote, a generation raised by women. Moreover, the only primary female character, Marla, appears to exist simultaneously to make men unhappy and also to service their sexual needs.
Yeah, and there's this whole like men being like this whole idea of men being feminized, and it's just like this. Like, I don't get that, honestly. Like, I get like culture and everything is like there's a certain way you have to be a man and everything, but people who think like this fail to realize like society's. I mean, I don't. Maybe they don't. The society is pushing that. And even if we do like, oh, well, men and women should share the burden of like raising the youth. Like, I think these same guys are still be like, well, I don't want to do this like woman's job. Like, that's you watching. So like they say this shit, but they don't like realize what would go into changing it just being children raised by women. Like, it's lost upon them the work they would have to do, which they think is beneath them. Yeah. Good point, Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You need that validation?
Yeah.
Do you not feel
you know what I'm talking about?
validated?
Angry, unvalidated men?
Are you going to get violent?
Yeah, I might. Calm down.
Good boy. So Fight Club presents a view of masculinity predicated on the need to wage violence against all that is feminine, both within and outside of the characters' lives. Tyler tells the narrator over and over about how bad and useless women are. Even his soap business is based on misogyny, with Tyler proudly saying that he is, quote, selling rich ladies their own fat asses back to them at $20 a bar.
I think, see, that, in all fairness, that's just good business. That's knowing your audience and your demographic and selling to them. Capitalism.
It is interesting, though, the means they take of the way they treat Marla, Marla's mother.
Oh, yeah.
And like they don't respect her. Like he uses her mother's fat to start making the soap. So it's just another way that
Did you
Marla is just a means to an
Are you
end.
saying an unstable, like, unmatured, like, emotional-wise man is taking advantage of a woman?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, but I
Okay.
love that that's one of the ways that, again, you mentioned her sexual
Yeah.
needs,
Mhm.
but they also find ways to be like, "Oh, anything I can get out of her," and a
Yeah.
Machiavellian again, a means to an end. If I keep her around and let's see what we can get her to do for us,
Mhm.
or whatever we can get out of her.
Yeah. And at the same time, Fight Club could not exist without the privilege whiteness affords. This is a story of white male malaise, how it impacts others, and how it sees itself. American ideas of whiteness and masculinity are intertwined with ideas of political and economic oppression. Concepts of white masculinity possess the seeds of their own demise. This revved up death drive repeatedly asserts itself within the world of Fight Club and our own political movement as well.
Yeah, and just, like, kind of a side note, the book, though not, like, explicitly racist, it doesn't work if Tyler Durden is black or, like, a minority.
Hmm.
You know, at least not, like, I guess you would say a passing white guy.
Yeah.
Like because you take this and you put this I guarantee you put this movie or make him explicitly like a minority in the book, and it does not go over as much as it done with the population, especially in the '90s and edge and everything, all the edge of it all.
Or it takes on a different meaning.
Yeah, it
You
it
know?
changes the like, yes, of course, it does change the movie and the book and everything like that, but I don't think it's received in the same way. I think now we see in that movie, like, "Oh, look at these violent minorities and
Mhm.
how they treat not just, their fellow man, but their property values, and, like, women."
Mhm.
I think that's what we run into there with that.
Yeah.
So, again, the movie book garners a totally different attention if it's made and the narrator, Joe in the book, Jack, or, yeah, anyways, the average Joe, the average Jack, not the same. It's used as something against, like, this kind of attitude, I think,
Yeah.
almost.
But is it maybe possible that the power behind it is the fact that it is the white man who has had all access to the American dream, has every reason to be successful, and you've still got these guys who
No,
feel, "Oh my god, I'm, walking on the roadside of the land in a free ride, and I can't even get a ride, and this is supposed to be the
no,
easy
that's I
way."
think that's where we're
Yeah.
getting at. The
And that
whiteness of the
builds
book
to that pathetic.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whiteness of that is what I think is the point. I think that's what we're
Yeah.
getting at. The whiteness is what makes the book.
Yeah.
I'm mad.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
white.
how it's
I'm white
yeah,
and mad.
I'm white and I'm mad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
what it
it's
boils down to.
Pretty
Because like you
stimulus.
see this is white people coming to this idea of like what the world like bad things are happening. There's no way I can get out of this constant dredge that is my life. But like minorities have been dealing with government overreach, a lack of like state like any kind of welfare or help or anything like that, the criticizing of them for since America was a thing, really.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work in reverse, really. Like
Mhm.
the white people don't know how to do it. So like I think this movie itself does appeal to that white angry men more because they're fucking not used to it.
Mhm.
They've been promised something and it ain't there.
Yes, I agree.
Passionate.
No, yeah, that's it. That's what it's supposed to be about is, uh, this is my no, I'm supposed to it's okay for you to struggle, but I'm supposed to win.
Yeah, I'm a white man, and why am I at the top of the corporation? Why am I down
Right.
here with all you other fucking people, you others?
Yes.
Why is a woman my equal and not my secretary, basically?
Right, yeah.
Oh, I'm so angry.
Why is she sitting at the same table as me? Why isn't she getting my coffee?
Why
Yeah.
do I gotta sit in like sexual harassment training for an hour or something like that? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to learn not to say like slurred based jokes towards my coworkers? Why? Why do I have to worry about offending them? It's funny.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
why
can't
can't
say
I
anything in this country anymore without being canceled. You know, stupid shit.
why can't I tell her she looks good in those jeans? It's a
Hey,
compliment.
why don't you wear something tighter? It would help a little bit. Why
Oh.
can't you?
Oh, and only if you smile a little more.
God, if you would just smile, Jordan, a little bit.
So while Tyler's assertion that men are inherently violent and require violence in order to be their true selves is dumb as hell, there's something to the idea of physicality and violence as a means to connect with one another and form community. This is what I was kind of bringing up earlier. The most common interests shared by men are contact sports like football, wrestling, and hockey, physical hobbies like martial arts, lifting weights, hunting, and working on cars.
I have to stop there.
Mhm.
I am a little curious, and I'll just bring it up. Another popular sport
Mhm.
that I particularly partake in, golf.
Yeah.
And I would argue that golf is not this violent, hyper-violent sport, but yet it's still mostly a man's sport.
Mhm.
But it's literally as posh as it gets,
Mhm.
and I just think that it's interesting that that's
I think golf is seen more as a sport
an
of
elite.
the leisure class. You
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
time to
I
go to the
have
golf.
time, and you gotta think of what goes into building a golf course. It's acres
Yeah,
upon acres of the most
you're
beautiful
joining
land.
you're going to, like, a country club, a golf course specifically
So
for it. You got golf carts, and it's something you have to spend money just to, like, you have to buy and with any sport, you have to buy equipment and
you have
everything.
to be a member.
You have to be a member a lot of
It's
times.
it's
It's
very,
a now I will say I think
inclusive.
it's more inclusive now because I think golf's so popular and
But
everything.
guess what?
But even then, like go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but to be inclusive, you have to be what?
Exclusive.
Exclusive. So it's nice to be able to tell other people, "Kick rocks, you're not as good as me."
Mhm.
I will admit there is something in there. Some days when I'm teeing off on that first tee and it's 7:30 on a Thursday, and I know that other people are getting up and getting ready to go to
It's
work,
a
and I'm
freedom.
thinking to
It's a freedom
myself,
to the
"Look
usual
at me."
capitalism.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's your break from the everyday. It's like, "Oh, look at me. I get to be this, like, leisure guy and everything like that." There is that aspect to it. So, yeah, you're losing some of that physicality, but what you lose there, you get more
You
from it,
gain in
like, feeling almost as superior. Look at what I'm doing on my
cock
day off."
just grew
And
6
you get to drive
inches.
around and get drunk and be stupid with your boys.
Right. But you said football, and it made me think of also, like, the new biggest sport. At least, see, I'm into sports. I
Mhm.
can bring that to the table a little bit.
Mhm.
We all know football is America's sport. Hit 'em
I
hard, hit
thought
'em.
baseball was the pastime of
It's
America.
America's pastime, but that's a joke.
Oh, okay.
That's just us
I
living
don't know
in the
sports people.
Yeah.
it still is, but it's not.
Football is
It's
the sport.
football.
Yeah.
It will always be it is, and, anyway, but the other second most popular, NBA.
Oh, yeah,
So
basketball.
basketball is still a very interesting sport to me that it's not overly violent. It can be played anywhere. All you need is a ball and a goal other than soccer. Soccer's the easiest sport to invent. But, it just to me, it's interesting that NBA is taking on such a huge it's
And I
not rivaling the NFL,
and
but it is
honestly,
it has its own
I think there's
zeitgeist.
something there to talk about how when those who play these sport professionally, they leave the realm of putting on entertainment through violence
Yes.
and everything. Like as soon as they have any kind of voice outside of that, agree with them or not, they're me like you're just a sports player.
Mhm.
Hey, go back to
Mhm.
being our violent little clown and back to it.
Yeah.
I think there is that as well. I think there's like, yeah, you can make all this money, but you be quiet about it and you play a certain part. You be our violent outlet for us. You let us scream to be part of a community in some weird way.
I mean, I hate to quote him. Oh my god. Keep this in.
Jordan loves a quote.
Kanye said,
We will cut that
this was when he was
immediately.
the old Kanye, but he said paid LeBron a billy not to run away. So it's the whole comparison of, yes, you are an athlete, you are a professional, you are a millionaire or billionaire, but you're still there for my
Yeah,
entertainment.
your entertainment
Dance
based.
for
Yeah,
me.
your entertainment sakes.
Dance for me.
And yet we'll let any fucking moron be a pundit. Um, they can say dumb things. Look at Jesse Waters or Tucker Carlson.
Even video games, while not inherently physical, tend to be violent. The games that tend to be most popular with male players often include combat and strategy as their main playstyle. Engaging in violence or other physical activities is one of the few ways men are allowed to be intimate with one another. This is kind of what Jake was bringing up earlier. Grappling, slapping each other's asses, getting sweaty and greasy together. In essence, like going through something together is the only way men get to safely experience physical intimacy with one another in a socially acceptable way without fear of being accused of being feminine or gay.
This reminds me, what you just said reminds me of one of the opening scenes in The Departed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm bringing it back to sports where the cops are playing rugby,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's in the rain and like their muscles are glistening, but it's like 8 guys pushing and they're all together, and it's like, but it's a team effort. And again, you made the comment about getting through something.
Mm-hmm.
We came together as a team, and the 8 of us were stronger than the 8 of them. And now we've been through war.
It's just shared
I feel
experience.
war buddy.
It's a shared
Yeah.
experience, but it's also like a
But we
hard
earned it.
experience. It's something earned. It's not just something you sit
Yes.
down and passively go through, like
So
sharing your feelings. It's an active thing. It's
and
something you
it's
can see and remember out.
and it's an achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think that's supposed to be significant somehow in the sense of we came together, you and I, we accomplished something together, and now we have that bond. So I think of intimacy. You mentioned the intimacy, like
Mhm.
getting gives you a reason to slap asses, and hug or hold. But I think there's something more to that. There's more to the word intimacy than just the physical contact.
Well, yeah, if you're thinking of like a more intimate moment with like emotions and everything, but these guys aren't doing that though. These guys depend on the physicality of it, or even even like if it's not the actual mood, it's them like they can describe or talk about physicality. Talking about how like amping up their own violence or image.
But I do think there's a commonality of I can show you that I can be there for you, right?
Mhm.
And that this makes me feel worthy, or it makes me feel like someone, and also the fact that you can use me, like it's almost like it's ironic because it's like kill your boss, but go show the world that you're necessary.
Yeah.
Even though because you don't feel necessary here. So I think the point I was saying was with the intimacy is not only are you getting that I have someone out there cares about me, but I'm worthy of being cared for too.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think the actual physical act is easier to keep in your mind's eye, basically. It's easier to remember that. You can see that actual act of you being in you're in it together.
Concrete.
You're in it together, like she was saying.
It exists.
It's
There
it's
can't be
something
question.
it
That
can't
trophy on my shelf shows you that
we
I
were there.
achieved.
We were all here together. This is our moment together. Whereas you're talking about whereas just talking about it and not doing the action is kind of like, well, it's half-hearted. It's not there. It doesn't mean as much. And I think a lot of guys aren't men, I'm gonna say a lot of men aren't taught how to appreciate the non-physical aspect of being intimate with other people.
Right. They associate the intimacy to the physical intimacy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of being because that's what makes it real. And I've actually been guilty of that myself in past relationships. I thought like we had to be having the sex had to be good for it to be a good relationship.
See, that's where I just assumed my sex I have is always bad. Just so it's never been a problem. I was like, it probably wasn't good.
Correct me. Am I wrong in this? In that
Thinking sex is bad?
In that, no, but it's the men is primarily going to associate the strength of the relationship is how good is the sex.
No, not how good the sex is, how good I am at the sex.
Oh, so like you have to be worthy.
Yeah,
You have to earn her love.
Tell it.
With that dick.
How many Jordan? How many times men who like if they were told by their partner, long-term partner, that I've had better sex with someone outside of you, they would react poorly. They would not deal with that.
It emasculated.
Yeah. You're like, why aren't I the best? You mean what do you mean? I got the biggest dick and that you've ever had. Why you don't have an orgasms on me?
You're not the best.
Yeah.
Which some people
Jordan
like.
just winked at me. But no, I think it speaks to again. It's a physical act,
it's the physical.
It's a physical act, and I need you to validate
you talk
it.
about so much. I see it when we are together.
Jordan just did a humping motion. But there is like I was saying, you get to see it, you get to experience. So when your partner goes, it's not the best, or it was okay, they get emasculated. Their feelings are hurt because they've never had to come up with the idea like, what did I do wrong? Okay, it doesn't always have to be the best.
Right.
Maybe I'm not doing enough oral.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
To quote Maisy, I ate pussy like an experienced lesbian.
That's good. That's good. High praise. Heavy praise.
She said that, and I was like, I don't think I've ever felt more proud of myself in my life. I was like, I wanted someone to high five, but my arms are short, and I was at the bottom of her. I couldn't reach out.
Couldn't reach.
Short arms, T-Rex shit going on. Anyways.
Jake's good at sex, everybody. I feel like the podcast needs to know that, I guess.
Validation before he gets violent, guys. Please.
It took a lot of not being good at it to get there. I've been bad at it for years. It was a good 28-year stretch. 29 years, it was not good.
Is it that interesting, though, that you needed that experience? And so this, again, brings us back to, I think that it's this, we want this validation, but we don't want to do the work to be validated.
We don't want to hear about that. We don't want you to complain about it or like tell us how we should fix it.
Yeah.
But just tell us we're good at it. But we want to hear about it.
We want to hear how good we are. We don't want the criticism or.
Right.
How many, Maze, how many men have been like, no, tell me the problem. I want to work on it. Then you tell them the problem and.
Every single one. Except for Jake.
And then you tell them the problem and it breaks them? Or
Yes.
What do you mean I don't fold the laundry right? Well, baby, you just kind of throw it in the dirty hamper after we took it out of the dryer. Well, that's where it goes. That's where I do my clothes when I take them off. Why wouldn't I put them back there?
Feeling some personal stuff. We're airing out some personal laundry here.
I'm a good laundry person.
He is a good laundry person. Not a word.
Laundry person. No, laundry person.
Laundry person.
I love doing
good
the
at
dishes. I do the dishes.
That's phenomenal at the dishes.
See, I think we take back the laundry from women. We make it a
See?
masculine thing, and then we can show, hey, this is how you fold laundry. That's us now. We own that. All right, enough of Jordan's sexism. Let's move on.
Back to Fight Club. This focus on physicality is likely why so many men connected with Fight Club while missing the inherent satire. And this is true of a lot of books and movies that try to satirize the same or similar masculine institutions. American Psycho and Taxi Driver, movies also about men and the violence that simmers within them, have created the same kind of fans. Taxi Driver, American Psycho, and Fight Club are not about men being cool. They're about the dangers of men letting their masculinity grow and rot into something dangerous and using it to act out.
Yeah, but did you see De Niro's mohawk? I mean, cool.
You talking to me? You talking to me? Like that?
saw-
That birthed the greatest, like one of the greatest moments.
And I will say, I really enjoy Taxi Driver. I do enjoy it as a movie.
But
It's
the
a good movie.
problem is when you watch that movie and go, yes,
Yeah.
yes, Travis.
Yes, I will not deal with my mental health
that
issues.
Scene where he's staring at the mirror and you're like, yeah, you tell him, fucking, like that's where it's scary.
Have you ever seen? I don't think you've seen
Oh,
that.
oh,
Oh, we
so
will.
good.
We will watch it. We're gonna do a movie episode. I'm sure.
I think it definitely fits right in with this. I didn't know you were.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Travis Bickle does everything for the wrong reasons.
Everything for the wrong reasons. Tyler Durden is everything that men should not be, and yet men watch this movie and yearn to be him. They think Tyler Durden is the hero because he's ripped and angry and says cool things about consumer culture, but Fight Club should not be misconstrued as some modern-day Machiavellian guide to reclaiming masculinity, as it too often is. Rather, it's a stark warning to men about hypermasculinity.
Yeah, but okay, hang on. Let me jump in here real quick. Let me just
Okay.
come to defense of these mongrels. They're dumb.
They are dumb.
And, like, I don't mean, like, they're dumb because they're men. I mean they're dumb because a lot of these guys, when they first take this movie in, I'm thinking of Gen Xers and, like, I fucking hate using generation shit, like Gen X coming of age at this point in time, and even, like, the older millennials at the time, they're first kind of coming, like, they're kind of coming of age and everything. And, of course, they're not going to get satire. They're dumb teenage boys or, like, dumb young men.
It's kind of like
You
what
know?
I said earlier, like wondering if I got the satire as a 13-year-old or if I
Right,
read
yeah.
it, how would I have appreciated it differently, or would I have been sucked into the Jordan Peterson
But if you look around,
vibe?
though, they had no outlet for like how to be taught to critically think about this movie.
Right,
Like
yeah.
there is like now when a movie comes out, we have a plethora of YouTube channels, podcasts. You can go
Yeah,
sit
well,
down
you
and
have,
learn.
You have
you
the
can,
internet, and
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 you
now
can
we've
take
made connections to all different kinds of people.
and now there is still danger of, like we were talking about earlier, there are those
Being
communities you go
ignored.
to and they would give you the wrong message. They would give you
Well,
this hyper
You
masculinity
can
and
find
everything like
yourself
that.
stuck in a vacuum.
But at least there
Yeah,
is a
definitely.
channel for it. You could
Yeah.
look into it. But it still takes some level of effort on the part of the person doing that. And I don't think
Mhm.
teenage boys and young 20-year-old men of the 1990s had even an inkling or a want of any sort to look into the movie. Look how cut Brad Pitt is. I heard some girl at school say she likes Brad Pitt, and I gotta look like that and fucking
He
fight.
had the fucking the V, bro.
Hey.
Like, damn. I was like, I watched that movie. I was like, dude, if I look at that, I would never wear a shirt.
I watched that-
and I'd walk around about what? You want me to cover this?
I watched that movie and thought, that's not my type.
But it is interesting how he represents this. Not only I'm cut, like it's so funny to bit like that. It's almost girly, feminine.
How they would view it, the effort it would go into the dieting. Yeah,
Yeah,
but see,
absolutely.
you don't talk about that. Now you do now because there's like fitness circles. but-
No, it's just he looks. You know why? Because everyone wants to look like that, but they don't want to go through again.
Because
You
men are
want the
taught like you
validation.
shouldn't be into your hygiene and everything. It's like now
So
we start
ironic.
looking at Patrick Bateman here. Patrick Bateman, who is the what's the word metropolitan
Yuppie?
yuppie, yes, but there's what metrosexual,
Metrosexual, yeah.
which is like not deemed as his usual like stereotypical masculinity
He
of
takes care
America and
of
everything.
himself.
Yeah, he's got this. So he's like they had to give a term of metrosexuality or whatever it's called again.
Mhm.
They have to give it that.
We
They
have to
give
have
it
our
that.
own thing.
It had to have a word for it because it was so weird for a man to care that much about his hygiene.
Right? No,
even
it
though
can't
pumping,
just-
even though pumping iron, to call out Schwarzenegger, is manly in a lot of sense. You're moving heavy weight, you're building muscle, but it's also kind of gay that you're hot and sweaty and all around these other guys lifting. Come on, bro, one more. And one more. I know I'm right over your face right now, but let's get this fucking weight up, bro.
And this is brought up in the book with Paulson. Robert, like before he developed cancer, he was a bodybuilder.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
loses that masculinity.
And that's what he did. That was his thing. He oiled himself up. He made sure his glutes were right. Like, he was very
Can I say, I think you're going where I was going with it. Homoerotic.
Whenever you see these competitions, these guys are really looking like, nice pecs, bro.
They are literally, those competitions are literally taking in the size, how you position, how you show your muscle, shading, tan. Like, it goes into like this, not just hygiene or like knowing your body, but a constant like study of how you look to others, which I think for a lot of times is seen as feminine, but you still are muscular and strong. So it has this weird kind of back and forth. So with Bob, who is easily my favorite character in this book, so many reasons. He's originally he's at the same time homoerotic, but he's masculine, like in a more traditional way because he's big and muscular. Then he loses it all. And he even loses what I think traditionally see men as attractive. Now he's got big boobs. He's feminine at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's lost everything that was masculine. And now he's developed, again, like we talk like testicular cancer. Like men, when they go through that, they're like, am I a man anymore? Because they're not there. I don't have my balls. So it's like, you chopped them off and now I'm less than.
Yeah, I'm not a man
You
anymore.
have that feelings of inadequacy.
Have to tie your manhood back to your
And
manhood.
how do we feel adequate again? We make sure other people know who we are. And
We let them know we're virile and strong.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, masculinity in Fight Club oscillates between this sort of self-hating emasculation and the impossible self-realization of the Ubermensch. We start the book with our main character doing everything he's told to by society as a man, and yet he feels empty, depressed, and unfulfilled. Then he meets Tyler Durden, who introduces him to a totally new ideology and set of rules for masculinity. Enchanted by Tyler's cool guy attitude and answer for everything, he falls into this new world and finds that it does actually make him feel better, at least for a while. When Tyler's Fight Club transforms into Project Mayhem and begins converting its emasculated members into bona fide terrorists, our narrator starts having some second thoughts about Tyler's motivations and ideology.
Yeah, consequences.
Yeah.
The consequences of my actions. And that reminds me of a certain group of people who supported Trump in, like, say, the last election. And it was not until they realized the actual danger and violence let loose by the administration.
It's like all these people saying, I didn't vote for this.
Like
Yes, you did.
There's
Yeah.
this
You don't
schmuck
wanna-
comedian / pod co-host who goes around doing things, saying things like, I would have never voted for this if I didn't know. No, it was there. You just like the idea of catchy slogans and violence.
Right.
And again, how you think America should be represented until it starts it's knocking at your fucking door. And going on a little tangent there. To some degree, I feel pity for these kinds of people. They don't catch it until it's too late, and they're like, "Oh no, how do I back?" I'm glad they see it because a lot of people don't catch it. They never come back from it.
Are the ones who are still doubling down. They refuse to stoop. They say, no, this is right. Because they can't admit, hey, I might have been wrong about this guy.
Yeah.
That's like the greatest sign of intelligence is your ability to say, I was wrong.
And I think that goes back to what we're saying. Like, they're broken down at this point in time. They've been, it's decade
The
in
only
now.
people I know, I don't know a single person who's apologized. I'm sorry, I voted for that. I didn't vote for that, whatever. People aren't talking about it. The people who used to talk about him a lot, they're quiet. No one's actually come out and renounced him.
Well, that's again what I'm getting at. It's hard to say I was wrong.
Yeah.
It's easier to just be quiet and step away. And I think I think a lot of Americans, at least, it's easier to fall back into that silent block of voters and everything like that. And again, a lot of them would vote for Trump again. Look, I don't like this violence, but they have short memory spans. Like, if he was to go another election, they'd forget about it.
Lesser of two evils.
Yeah, that too.
And that's the worst way. I hate that's how we have to describe our elections. We have to look at it and say, well, which guy sucks less?
We don't have to describe it that way. We can not just sit around and take catchy slogans. We can sit there and go, hey, both these plans fucking suck.
Right.
We can go, hey,
then what do we
do I
about
want to be someone who's okay with authoritarianism, fascism, and everything, or do you want a centrist who's basically okay with those same things? But hey, ICE won't come to your city, maybe.
But they might appear weak. Someone like
centrists are almost inherently
pussy.
Seen as weak. No, they're seen as weak. They're seen as weak because
they're depicted.
They're unwilling, in my opinion, to not just pick a side, but come down hard on things. They're so malleable, which is different than what the Trump administration is malleable to, because they do have this nationalism and everything going on beside them. They're very into the thing. they're not willing to compromise on what they're pushing out and everything like that until they're in power. Then it's okay.
But this comes back to the if you're not with me, you're like America, love it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not with me, you're against me, and he does a great job of making you fear the
Like
other.
I know we were talking about earlier about like I went on liberalism and I mentioned Reagan and like Margaret Thatcher and Ross Perot and everything, but I don't want to leave out Democrats in this thing. Bill Clinton, who comes in with he wins the 92 election and everything like that. Yeah, he comes in with these like, I guess you could say left-leaning politics and everything. But by the time he gets done, in 1996, he's signing on to the 96 welfare reform. And I think he says to that basically welfare is done how we know it just today or some shit like that. It's a weird quote. Not a weird quote. He's just saying like welfare is done. And that's a neoliberal kind of stance and everything. So he's not sticking with his left. And then in 97, he signs on to not Reformation Act for basically it's a compromise on spending the budget. I cannot remember what I'm talking about. So like you do have a lot of Democrats who are centrists and they start signing on to more neoliberal asks and everything, or bills and everything like that. Again, allowing the corporations, they fall into it as well. And I put that on centrists and Democrats as well. I'm rambling a little bit, but this is my point. I think both sides
are
guilty of how we get to someone like Trump.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're gonna like, I'm against it.
Yeah.
You get, and again, that's the reason why you get people like Ross Perot and everything. These guys are outsiders. That's why you get a little bit of Trump. An outsider speaking like, hey, we're part of this two-party. They're not different from each other. One's slightly different, and the other one signs on to it while trying to say out loud, like, we're not with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of me just saying a lot of words. I hope everyone got it.
Mm-hmm.
No, you made a good point for the most part with the centrists being on their own level, having their own problems.
Yeah.
Like an anti-hero. Hey, nobody's perfect, man.
Centrists are more of the character in any work who's like, you're not sure how they might go, but it's most likely going to lean towards what benefits them.
Right. Like
they're
Jack
not
Sparrow.
Anyone far right or far left, you have, I guess there's some level of like, they at least having a commitment to their beliefs a lot more than a centrist and everything like that. It's not just about the betterment of themselves. It's a betterment for a cause.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even if that causes, themselves.
Fascism.
Yeah. So Project Mayhem is an organization that weaponizes the anger seated deep in hypermasculinity as a purported solution to huge problems. As Tyler begins leading his followers down an increasingly dangerous and radical pipeline, the book shines a light on how unhealthy and ineffective hypermasculinity is for men trying to build a healthy outlook and the relationship to their masculine image. And this is kind of where we get into the homoeroticism and queerness inherent to Fight Club. While Chuck Palahniuk wasn't out at the time of this novel's release, it's hard not to see the sexualization of the characters and their relationships in the novel. While I don't think it was necessarily his intention to infuse homoeroticism into the story, it does ultimately shine through and even work to further the book's satire of hypermasculinity.
Well, you're telling me, Jordan, you telling me you don't walk around talking about your boys and how like they look oiled up and everything, and how you like to just cry into their chest? You don't do that?
How their muscles are like glistening.
Yeah, you don't tell me you don't like when you're sitting there and he goes, I just want to hit something beautiful under me. You don't talk about that with your boys?
I want to destroy, what do they call them, angel face?
Yeah.
Like, I want to destroy something beautiful. So you're admitting, I was like, you're admitting he's beautiful.
There's an attractiveness there. You see him as beautiful.
It's kind of gay, bro.
That's right.
Kind of
gay.
I saw a tweet once, it cracked me up. It says, it was like low-key being jealous or being nervous, another dude around your girl is low key gay. It's like you saying he look like he could fuck or something like that.
That guy looked like he put it down better.
I was like, when it's funny that you get there's a level of weakness associated with that lack of confidence again. It comes back in. Because if I see someone better than me, that's weakness because I'm admitting they're better than me and I can see it.
Right.
Well, I know that doesn't tie into the to the homoeroticism of it, but I'm still bringing it back
but
to that,
still a good point,
that pathetic, that need to be needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was bringing.
And I do think there's a fear of when you do talk about that kind of thing or like avoiding being physical and just being open or like describing how your boy looks good. I tell Jordan all the time he'll be looking good. I think a lot of people might take that as, gay.
Mm-hmm.
The queerness of it all, I guess. I keep saying of it all, but it gives a fuck.
So Fight Club's narrator both starts off and ends the novel with Tyler placing a gun in his mouth, which might not seem symbolic of a sexual act if the rest of the book didn't portray the relationship between Tyler and the narrator as toxic, obsessive, and sexual. Our narrator tells us right at the start that he's in a love triangle. He wants Tyler, Tyler wants Marla, and Marla wants him. The characters are obsessed with each other, and they hate each other, and they quite literally cannot live with or without each other.
Just say you're bi.
Right?
Just say you're bisexual. It's so easy. It's okay being gay.
It's
cool.
okay to be gay, guys.
This reminds me of a scene. I can't remember the detail in the book. It's obvious that Tyler fucks her and that like he doesn't want the narrator to ever bring him up around her. He's like, don't bring me up around her or else you'll never see me again. But in the movie, there's the scene where he opens the door and there he is, sexy with the V and everything. And you can see Marla on the bed, like sprawled out. And you get this idea, the narrator, he's impressed. He's like, oh, wow, look what he's doing to her. Like, oh. And even then, he's like, you want to get in on this? So again, it denigrates.
It's weird because I take that as
woman.
I take that more as him being jealous that he's not with Tyler.
Is that how you read that?
I read that as him being jealous.
Okay, you know what's in
because he in the book says Tyler dumped me.
Yeah, Tyler dumped me.
And this is prior to him knowing he's just some figment of his imagination.
Right, but he wasn't good enough to keep him around.
He's unable to tell Tyler, because he never tells Tyler, I love you.
Right.
I need you in my life. He never says that. Now, Tyler knows, of course, because he's innocent, but he doesn't know. The narrator doesn't know at the time. There's a jealousy. He loves Tyler. It almost feels like Marla's kind of like a runner-up.
His
present.
competition.
Yeah. His second prize. Oh, I don't get Tyler, so I get her.
Tyler enjoys what he can do with Marla.
Yeah. Tyler is that hyper masculinity. Like, I'm fucking. Whereas Edward Norton is you're beaten down average Joe who's probably, it's seen in Tyler's eyes, too weak to make that move on Marla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's too worried about how it would affect on his emotions. Whereas Tyler's just this guy, look, I'm a fuck.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, why won't you fuck me?
Well, he's thinking, well, what? I can't be that vulnerable.
I have your kiss on my hand. She doesn't.
I think it's easy to see that a large part of the driving force behind our narrator's actions is fear of his own capacity for gayness. His fear of his own sexuality drives him to release those feelings through violence. And like we mentioned earlier, we can see this clearly through how overboard he goes when he fights Angelface. The line, I just wanted to destroy something beautiful, tells us exactly how he feels both about Angelface, but also about himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this, and I think one thing you really get, again, he's jealous.
Again,
he's jealous of the beauty Angelface has naturally.
Angelface's beauty admits that he's not beautiful as beautiful.
Yeah, and again,
everything is a comparison.
And I think it could be. I don't know if it reads this way, but I think it can be read as him being attracted to him.
Right.
Like oh, look at this beautiful thing. And he's mad about it, so he's like, let me destroy it. How dare I think this is beautiful? I need to destroy it.
And I love the way they capture it. They do both. David Fincher did a great job in the movie capturing that disdain for Angelface and that jealousy of Tyler. Because if you remember in the movie, Tyler, instead of like reporting to Norton, well, Brad Pitt goes to Jared Leto and he's telling him something, and he whispered, and Jared Leto runs off like he's now become important, and he's like, why isn't he telling me about this? Why is he talking to Angelface? And I don't think that was in the book. I don't think Angelface ever became any different than anyone else in Tyler's eyes.
No.
But in the movie, they make it look so, and that's what leads to literally the next scene is when he fights him and destroys his face.
And I'll also add, as soon as Edward Norton actually got done beating down Jared Leto's character, the entire cast applauded. They were just like, good, he fucking needed it. We're not a Jared Leto fan.
Talk about a real
podcast.
fight. Edward Norton, Jared Leto. I hear they're both insufferable on.
Isn't Jared Leto like a cult leader or some shit now? Or
I
like
just hear
right
they're
at it?
both.
Yeah,
no one wants to
something like
work
that.
around with them because they're so hard to work with.
Jared Leto, there's like tons of horror stories about him. I don't know anything about Edward Norton, so I can't speak to
I
that.
just hear he's difficult.
I think
I've heard
Jared
he's very
Leto's
difficult
difficult
to work
because he's just insufferable fucking piece of shit. But from what I don't keep up with Edward Norton, but like he seems like the type. This is just me, no knowledge. He seems like the type he's hard to work with because like I'm an artist. Like when he was trying to get out of was it American X? He's like I won't release it until it's my cut or whatever. Or something like that. It was maybe with the director. I can't remember. Might have been the director.
I don't know if you've ever seen Birdman with Michael Keaton.
No.
And Emma
Good
Stone,
movie.
and who else is in that? But anyway, Edward Norton was the other, and apparently he was very difficult to work with on that movie. I heard.
All right, let's go back to talking about homoeroticism in Fight Club. So it's easy to see how the fight clubs mirror underground gay clubs and bathhouses. They're secret, you don't talk about them, yet word of them spreads covertly for people in the know. Even our narrator's inner monologue, noticing the bruises, split lips, and the way men on the street carry themselves, can be seen as a reference to things like the hanky codes, flower codes, and earring placements that queer people would use to identify one another when they couldn't be safely out.
Can I add that, like, that was something I learned only in the last few years about, like you're talking about the different kind of, like, hanky codes and flower codes and everything, and I find that it's something you learn about, like, cultures that aren't allowed to be, like, out in the open like this time. They have to learn, like, I just love the creativity. Not creativity, I guess,
It
creativity,
is creativity,
but
yeah.
the need to survive, and they go in there, and I find
that
that
was what I was
so
gonna say, the strength
yeah.
to exist,
Mm-hmm.
to survive. You said survive. I was gonna say the strength to persist, though, in the even with someone telling you, no, you can't be this. We're gonna find a way. It's ironic that that's what they accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'll exist, and then you got old Tyler Durden here. He was like, no, I exist, and you're gonna make sure I exist. You know what I mean?
There is no way, like, to tell us apart. We're all one until, like, you die and you be a martyr. But I also go as far, like, when me and Maisy were reading Fight Club, I think we pretty much go, like, this is, like, he's noticing all these little things that tell you apart that the average person wouldn't know. And I think we and me was like, that sounds like the codes and everything you get in, former, like, LGBT communities, like,
Yeah, like, it's a
90s, 80s, 70s,
community that
60s.
is displaying these things, which is probably just like an accessory to someone who's not in the know. But if you are in the know, then you recognize and understand them.
Doesn't that make you feel all the better, though? It's like, I know. They don't know.
Yeah. I was actually
know.
looking at it going to, like, a certain club out west. And they actually had, like, an explanation for all, like, hey, if you want a certain thing, you wear, like, you put this, and it lets people know
What you're into.
at the it's not a club, it's like a gathering there, an event. Something we would enjoy going to. We should bring Jordan. He'd be like, I am so comfortable here.
But I did just want to note that I thought that was a stellar observation and something I did not pick up on. But it is cool that it's like you see a guy with a busted lip and you know.
And here's
You
the
know,
Jordan,
yeah.
I wouldn't have picked up on it just a few years ago until I started actually paying attention to
You
communities.
joined the Fight Club?
Yeah, I joined
So
the Fight
now
Club.
you know.
Yeah, I joined the
You
Fight
see a
Club.
guy with
That's
a
what I
lip.
joined, Jordan. And
See
wink,
a guy
wink.
with a hole in his cheek. You know. That's how you know.
These two people know so much about me. You learn things as you age, kids.
You do. You do. So the fight clubs are liberating because they let their members express their repressed feelings and sexuality, but they're also dangerous because, along with Tyler, they're an unhealthy form of the sexual expression associated with toxic masculinity. However, Fight Club is upfront about the libidinal aspects of right-wing authoritarianism. The alienated young men it depicts want a father figure, but they're also getting, like, for lack of a better word, a daddy. Conservative men are deeply submissive to male authority figures.
And I immediately can pull up the fact running in this last election where Tucker Carlson and other people started calling Trump daddy. Something that
Really?
yes,
So gross.
daddy. But the thing is, like, in any other circumstances, these people who are okay with it, I don't give a shit to say, so many conservative men who would hate even hearing that out of anyone outside of, like, their daughter or whatever, are thinking of these strong men as daddy.
Daddy.
And
yeah.
I have to keep saying that because daddy of it all. You get that so much. And even if they don't say daddy, that they are submissive to this authoritarian
They
figure.
kiss the ring.
They kiss
basically.
daddy. He's a strong man.
It's sickening.
What pisses me off is the fact that outside of that, they'd call it gay or be hateful towards it. How dare you show this kind of affectional term for another man?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck them.
Yeah, the straight men in the novel are lost and scared for what they see as their own degraded masculinity. They worry that this new kind of life, with its lack of overt hypermasculinity, might make them gay, and so they need the traditional rigidity of fascism to cleanse them.
It's okay to be gay.
It is okay to be gay. Bob becomes a symbol personifying how masculinity is both degraded, he has breasts like a woman, and used in a culture that relies upon the quote-unquote feminine qualities of support and empathy rather than masculine attributes of strength and virility to bring men together.
And yet when he is gunned down by a cop, all of that fades. None of that matters. Again, like I pointed out earlier, it is just then the martyrdom, the myth of what comes with him dying.
Yeah.
You forget about the kind of usual that he didn't carry at that point in time any of the usual traditional masculinity that goes with it. You know, he's got more feminine. He's like the guy, you know, you get the narrator at the early top. He's the one person that's a man that Joe can open up to, that he can cry to, that he can actually have a cathartic moment. He has that before he has it with anyone else outside of violence, outside of sex. It is with Bob. And Bob still, even though has a feminine qualities or what is seen as feminine, he's still a male. And I think that makes Bob the most important character of the book.
I was literally about to say that he might be the foil that we needed.
Yeah.
He's the sympathetic. You could call him a tragic hero.
He's the unsung hero until the end, till he actually dies. Because at the beginning,
Well, I'd say tragic because why would he have ever been someone to have to join something like Project Mayhem if not for the testicular cancer,
Yeah.
the feeling he couldn't even outdo it. And like it wasn't because I hate my job. It wasn't because my wife didn't love me.
his life had been taken from him for something he can't
But it
control.
was like, yeah, something I couldn't even control. So it is an alternate. You've got these other guys who are like, dude, just fucking hit, go out and make, do it.
But
Stop whining.
But that's where you get. That's
With
where you
him,
get.
it's like, no, I have no choice. I'm sorry.
No,
but
you're fine. I
it's
keep
his
cutting you
lack
off.
of control that makes him tragic and sympathetic
He's also
and important.
I think that lack of control makes him one of the braver people in the book. He's a turning point constantly. We get our first moment of where the narrator gets a break from his insomnia. It's someone who suffers from insomnia.
He says it's the first time he cried.
It's the first time he has the best sleep he's had in weeks, days, whatever it was.
Months, yeah.
Because of this moment with another man. He's able to open up before anything else, sex, violence. It is just him being
vulnerable
to feel cared for.
Right.
Yep.
It is a cathartic moment that way. And honestly, it's the best moment in the book. It's not the fucking, because he doesn't even care to remember. That's Tyler. Tyler's the sexual being. It's not when he's being violent. That's an outlet for his physical aggression and like anger, but it's not his tears and everything. It's not him sleeping.
This was what I was mentioning earlier with intimacy having to be more than the hug. It's having someone to hug and someone willing to take this time to hug me.
Yeah.
And knowing damn well, look how hard of a time he's going through, and yet he still observes and acknowledges me. So,
Yeah.
and now I must mean something somehow.
Earlier when I said violence is easy, I think the opposite. I think it goes with intimacy, and on this side of way is hard.
Intimacy is hard.
It takes
yeah.
you have to be like being violent. Yeah, you're vulnerable in a way. You're out there. It's more of you're doing something. You're active, but actually being vulnerable takes a considerable amount of effort and bravery.
Right.
That's why it's hard to cry.
That's
God damn, Jake. That's a good quote.
Fucking killing shit, baby. Pop, 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 pop. And when you get the best example of that, in my opinion, is in the kind of early to mid aughts and everything, when John Cena really comes into his own in WWF, and we get the Doctor of Thugonomics. He opens up in a way. Sorry, but that's not good. You can cut that shit.
I wish I could tell you guys that I was sorry for watching a wrestling documentary with Jake before we recorded this episode, but I'm not sorry, so I won't apologize.
I've watched that documentary like 4 times. It's
which documentary are y'all? There's some cool ones on Hulu.
Mr. McMahon. But I have like 3 great wrestling books, and it's going to be like what I want to focus on, because I think wrestling is so important to an outlet for. Yeah, like wrestling's for everyone, but for a lot of it's like this. It's this pageantry and like it's soap operas for men and everything like that. It's because you get so many emotions. You get so many emotions in wrestling and everything like that. Like you have grown men out on like and a whole audience. They're like crying. They're losing. Like you have storylines where someone their wife is being taken them by another wrestler. You're challenging masculinity. But now you have shitty people in control and everything, or start using that for a good message, but wrestling is very important to all of this masculinity.
And this is why I argue, though, when y'all keep wanting to say it did, maybe it did because I'm ignorant on what happened in the 90s. But let me tell you how I know the zeitgeist that was held with, or how well wrestling has fit inside its own zeitgeist. My grandfather, my dad's dad, who I never met, he died like when my dad was 12. He's known as like the hardest, baddest, just the biggest bastard. He was just he worked my dad to the ground. My dad, everything my dad ever said about him was like he was just a hard man. But Saturdays or I guess it would have been Saturdays. Dad always knew Saturday afternoon did not have to work because his dad had to watch wrestling. Had to watch wrestling on the TV. So even then, this was like in the 60s. My dad knew that Saturdays, his pop, who was my grandpa, who was like this hard, a man's man. We're going to work in the field 7 days a week. 6.5 days because gotta watch my wrestling.
That's the days of the
I
territories,
just
baby.
found that to be so interesting. I'm like, even this guy, that was his. He's like, oh, yeah, get him, Joe.
This is his treat.
Wrestling's an escape. Wrestling's an escape that I think for a long time was acceptable for men to enjoy. It's a physical activity. Yes, there's some pageantry. Now there is more. It's more pageant. There's a lot more pageantry than originally, but there's always been this like. A lot of times, again, I'm no expert on Super Bowl and stuff, but especially at least in the '60s, you had heels and baby faces and everything going back very far. And they represent a storyline. And you have your black and white, usually good guys. Like there's a storyline that's black and white a lot of times. Now they've gotten more outrageous now and everything, but it's good story. Again, there's a way for men to enjoy something outside of, it's still physical, but there's pageantry to it.
Yeah, definitely.
The drag of it all. All right, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, no, I remember seeing it and thinking like Gold Dust. I know who Gold Dust is.
Boy,
And I'm like, look at what this dude's this dude better be able to kick someone's ass or else
that's just, he's, that Goldust is the son of the American Dream Dusty Road, right?
I do not know any of this.
Hard times, baby, hard time. I love Dusty.
I just remember the makeup and all he took the time.
Yeah.
And the pageantry behind
You know what?
it all.
Stop. We're gonna have a whole wrestling series on this. I love wrestling.
No, I was assuming this would be cut, but I did at least want to admit I know what you mean though with that whole. There is a pageantry. It's like yes, they're kicking ass, but damn, they look good doing it.
Yeah,
that's the part. You can't just be a badass. You got to be a good looking badass.
Yeah. All right. So the masculine anxiety of Palahniuk's characters almost always finds itself absolved through antisocial rituals of intense pain and punishment. And in Fight Club, the narrator's metaphoric gay orgies, or the fights, wind up turning into a fascist paramilitary built around pure obedience and discipline. Fight Club is designed to reflect the anxieties of disaffected men at the turn of the millennium and paints a clear picture of the terror men were experiencing at their own potential gay thoughts, this all-consuming gay panic and what it might mean for their own masculinity.
It's scary being gay.
All right, so before we close, I do want to talk a little bit about Marla. We spent most of our time during this episode talking about Tyler and our narrator, and
The men.
Those two are the main focus of the book.
The important part.
But Marla plays a bigger role than I think most people give her credit for. At the beginning of Fight Club, the narrator asserts that Marla is at the root of his problems with the quote, "And suddenly I realized that all of this, the gun, the bombs, the revolution, has got something to do with a girl named Marla Singer." But his real problems with Marla are all tangled up in his own self-hatred, his severe depression, anxiety, and self-loathing, have hindered his ability to maintain functional relationships, both romantic and platonic, and instead of recognizing the real root of these problems, his own mental health, he blames his struggle on Marla.
Isn't that interesting? Like a regular Helen of Troy.
Mm-hmm.
You get to be like, it was that damn woman.
It was all her fault.
It was her fault. She caused this whole damn problem, this war. If only I'd never met Marla Singer. It all happened when I met Marla Singer.
Jordan, did you say all the problems in your world are because of women?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. I feel that. Chucky P had it right with that
Chucky
one.
P.
He knew what he was talking about when he said,
we don't need women.
Marla Singer.
The narrator sees himself and Marla when they first meet because they have the same habit of spending all their time at support groups for problems they don't actually have. She becomes a reflection of his own shame and anxiety about having mental health problems and his fears of being perceived as feminine and crazy, and he instantly despises her for this.
So again, I remember thinking of her as the foil. So it's funny because you got narrator versus Tyler as a foil. He is what he is not. Tyler is what the narrator is not. But I find that so interesting. You're right that we see Marla at the beginning of the book doing the same things our narrator's doing.
Mm-hmm.
She feels the same pain. She's trying to solve the same problems, you could say, with the same solutions. I mean, that whole, like, she wants to go somewhere where she can be seen and feel she's alive, right?
Right,
Because I love that whole part about, like, she thinks some people are calling her from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
I love her obsession with death.
Yeah.
And
but I think that's different than the narrator, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's very different what the narrator is going for.
Of course it is. Well,
I thought you said they were going for like similar reasons, but
I think it's the fact they're the same. They're going through the same problems, but she doesn't decide to start a cult and try to blow up buildings and overthrow society.
Yeah.
So they seem to be in the same place in their life almost.
Yeah, they're both like disaffected and confused and looking for some sort of
But
solution.
he did things a little different than she did.
Yeah. Yeah, Marla is obsessed with death and has this desire for danger. She objects to many of the ways that Tyler and the narrator pursue danger, though. In short, she's obsessed with death, but she also has morals. She believes in right and
Yeah,
wrong.
because just because she believes in death doesn't mean she believes in the violence that Tyler and the narrator are okay with going with and how they're wouldn't affect how they
No,
deal
I
with
don't
death.
think
Yeah.
so at all. If anything, she's obsessed with her own death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's personal for
And
her.
it's that
She's
whole idea of but then she plays with it almost like a suicidal fixation
Mhm.
as opposed to actually being suicidal, like when she takes the pill, the accidental overdose
I
or
think
whatever,
I think
and then
they
she calls. It's
Yeah, go ahead,
almost like
sorry.
she just wants to be seen. It's that cry for help.
Yeah.
I think they're both, like, in a similar place, like you were saying, but Marla's more aware and mature in who she is in these situations. She's going for a more specific reason than why the narrator's doing it. His is just kinda like he doesn't even realize he needs this moment of catharsis, everything, that he needs therapy, basically, so he goes and cries. Where Marla's
Yeah,
obsession
it's
is
basically
death. Her obsession is death. The narrator is not obsessed with death per se, I don't think. He's more obsessed with just this unrealized issues he's dealing with, but he hasn't even noticed them yet. Whereas Marla is like aware of her situation and who she is, I think, and is doing it for a more, I don't want to say selfish, but personal reason.
well, so the way that both of them get to the groups is our narrator goes to the doctor and is like telling him about his problems, and the doctor is apparently like this old school piece of shit type kind of dude who's like, "Oh, we'll go over to the cancer survivors group on Wednesday nights or whatever, and then you'll see some real suffering, dude, like chill out."
That whole
Yeah.
like,
Um
there's people in other countries starving. Yeah.
Yeah, basically he ends up there through like the lack of empathy of his like service provider, whereas Marla ends up at the cancer groups because she thinks she has cancer. So
That's right. That is true. I've totally
Yeah, I forgot
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
about that part of the. I remember her getting checked and everything. Coming to have to check for her.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I totally forgot about that being a pivotal like part of her. Like she was experiencing that before.
yeah,
And I literally just forgot about that. So when I mentioned that they're the same, what I meant is they're in the same place and they're in the same place looking at the same solution, but with
They are
different
in the same
coming
physical location at times.
coming
Yes.
from different backgrounds
yeah,
and having alternate
yeah.
methods
they're
of
both
solution.
like dealing with the same like existential
I would
problems.
argue with what Jake said though about the narrator not being obsessed with death, like his own death,
Yeah,
because he does.
No, I
There is
said death, not his death. I said
just
obsessed with
death in
his death, I
general.
believe.
But
Yeah, because
there is the famous quote that's like, "This is your life, and it's ending one moment at a time."
yeah, and he's just being a dramatic little bitch, though.
I think he just sees the waste of it all, though. I think he sees his life as it's wasting, so he's like, you got to either, this is the old Shawshank, you either get busy living or you get busy dying. And
Mhm.
so I do see an obsession with death with him as well.
I think he's going through an existential crisis. He's being dramatic, and the answer to that is violence for him. Like, it's a simple answer because he's not very early, but he's not doing any like deep thinking to why these thoughts are okay with him and everything like that. It's selfish in that he's worried about like how he's being seen from Tyler's point of view, but like he's not obsessed with death and anything like that, in my opinion. Not in the sense I think you're
I
going for,
think
at least.
I think he sees not death, but life is a waste of time.
Yeah,
So I think he's seeing as death, like walking death, like his
I think he
life is.
sees being at a corporate job as a waste, but
No,
it's not like a death thing.
But I think he sees it. This is interesting to me, just because I'm from looking from his point of view and the idea of death coming for us all.
Can I?
I don't think he was scared to die. I think he was scared to die without a few scars. So,
Well, I think
so
I
there's
get
that.
thing. There's a point where Marla just walks out in the traffic and everything like that. I think it happens in
Yes,
the book and the movie. I know it happens in the movie. I think she just walks out and everything like because she's just like it's her life she's affecting,
right.
and that's how she's dealing with it.
But what about him when he goes and he lets the guy? Which, to be fair, this is another one that's different in the movie and in the book. In the movie, Tyler Durden takes the guy's wallet and puts the gun to the back of his head and tells him, "You're going to go back to college. If I see you here again, you know." It's depicted as Brad Pitt doing that in the movie.
I can't remember. I thought that was in the book. I thought it was still
In
Brad
the
Pitt.
book, it's the narrator. He's
There-
aware of who
I
he
I
is.
do know the
He's
scene you're
been
talking
sent
about.
to kill this guy.
yes,
Yes,
and
he's
he
like
does
collecting
it.
heads,
Well,
right?
see,
Collecting
but
heads.
in the movie, they make it Tyler
they make it
Durden's
Tyler.
message.
Yeah, you're right about that.
That he says, he's like, he'll wake up tomorrow and he'll eat the best bread. Like, he feels It's interesting how in the movie Tyler Durden's message is get busy living or get busy dying. He's like, why shouldn't I just kill you right now? You're wasting your life. But
but I think
but
that
in the
falls more
book,
into the idea of like, again, falling into the idea of like, my word is true. If you're not
well, of
doing like this
course,
scene of, yeah, again, so
I've got it figured out.
Right.
yeah.
And why aren't you awake?
So it's not a life or death thing. It's him being in power. It's Tyler Durden in power.
But that's why I'm saying it's different. In the book, it's supposed to be where our narrator has sort of redeemed. We're starting to see this self-awareness.
No, I don't. I don't take that as a redemption. He's still using violence as a way to get the message across and everything. And he's not being a better person. He's only doing
does
that.
terrible things for a good reason.
He's only doing that to garner, or in my
I'm
opinion,
not trying to
improvement.
sympathize.
I'm just saying he does that in a moment to garner attention from Tyler, I think.
From Tyler.
Yeah, it's again, he wants to impress Tyler. He wants to impress the guy, you know?
Well, he's doing it because he was sent to do it.
Yeah.
But he's not doing what Tyler said. So this is the first time we see our hero. I guess he would be, if anything, we're arguing an anti-hero. But our narrator,
I'm not saying he never
I think our
turns against
narrator
Tyler or
wakes
anything. Like, he
up and
clearly does,
realizes,
but
hold on, there's a good to this. Something can be done with it. And fuck Tyler.
well, you can take a lot of fucking movements and pick good from them. It's just the overall thing. It's still violence and everything being used.
That's the overarching. That's why I think we get this anti-hero concept of he does a good thing, quote unquote. He thinks he's doing a good thing. Just
Yeah, he thinks he's helping this
executing it-
person. Yeah.
He's executing it poorly.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add to that, Shane?
I disagree, but that's fine.
All right. So, unlike the main characters, the male main characters who are held to rigid standards of masculinity and discipline, Marla is free to change her mind and develop with her situation, to learn about herself, to act as any regular feeling person would if faced with the same struggles. Her character demonstrates that it's okay to be confused and depressed and chaotic, and her narrative can be construed as an exhibition of the sheer courage it demands to become unguarded against love, rejection, and failure. And I'm going to go back to that excellent quote by Jake, that violence is easy, intimacy is hard. And I think that that's really exemplified through our two main characters, which is like our narrator / Tyler and then Marla. As the book progresses and we watch the narrator's state of mind begin to change, his relationship with Marla slowly shifts focus to be more centered on emotional sustenance as opposed to carnal sexual desire. She asked him to examine her for breast cancer, demonstrating both dependency on him and a need for non-sexual touch. And in return, he offers his craving for affection. His face softens as she kisses his cheek. Marla is able to sate the narrator's appetite for a life rooted in security, but not completely without thrill. She becomes his avenue to balance, and indeed she is the very root of his survival. It's Marla who finally pulls him out of his delusion and reveals that he and Tyler are the same person. And it's Tyler's threat to Marla that actually causes our narrator to finally stand up to Tyler and figure out a solution to his own problems. Go figure, it takes a woman to solve a man's problems for him. Am I right, ladies?
Wrong, ladies. It took an emotionally mature or a slightly more emotionally mature person to help a guy struggling out. Love you guys.
And this is just me again asking. You don't even have to include this, but I thought he realizes Tyler is him through he's going bar to bar looking for Tyler, and the guy starts finally saying, "Sir, you are here."
I think what actually happens is that he, like you're saying, he goes around to the bars and he's looking for Tyler and he can't find him, and that's when he
Finally
becomes
someone
suspicious.
calls him Mr. Durden.
That
And he's like,
somebody,
"What did you call me?"
yeah, like somebody calls him that, and he's like confused, and he's like, I don't understand. That's what tips him off to this being a possibility. But the person that he goes to in his life to be like, tell me what my name is,
Right.
yeah.
he goes to Marla.
Okay, now so you did make.
And she confirms that for me. I
But
forgot
was
about
just
that.
thinking of how he found out. What really cracks, because I remember I do like that scene in the movie too,
Yeah.
where he tells him, he's like, "Mr. Durden," and he's like, "We have reached critical mass," or whatever he says, and like, "Please put your seats in their upright position," or whatever. I like that scene.
I'll also add that, like, in the movie at least, they do use Marla as that kind of like tipping point for him to be like, this is where you make your final stand and everything for me. I would say one of my kind of more favorite moments in the book, it's in the book, it's different in the movie, but in the book, the narrator, he's being driven around by people from Project Mayhem and everything. Now in the movie, it's Tyler Durden, I think, driving. And there's a moment he's like, if you had one wish, what would you do? And he's like, I'd quit my job, and he forces into it. And I think one of my favorite parts is like, as someone who's trying to do a creative thing now, it is that there is this kind of like weird kind of like, one of the main moments I did find myself, yeah, I get that, of wanting to do something that you want to do.
Right.
And I think that does speak to me on level. So I'll find
Is
that
that
with the
more
book.
asking yourself, what am I not doing that I know that I'm going to regret?
I think you can ask yourself that no matter what you believe. And I think if you don't give yourself an honest answer, you're shortchanging yourself. I think that applies to anyone. In that book, it has nothing. Yeah, there's violent and stuff going on in the moment. He's about to wreck a car and everything and take other people's life in risk. But it's still a question you can ask at any point. The question itself is not physical, but it's a good question.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
That's kind of my closing thoughts on it.
No, I do agree with
Read the book.
idea that that message he does try to send out is like, wake up. What are you doing with your life? For one moment, there are hints of something to be learned from. You learn from everything, right? So I agree that
Yeah,
message.
there's definitely hints in this book that like these are good messages,
Yeah, there are definitely things about it that are good and useful. I think that the male community aspect of the book is really good too.
Yeah, fight your bro. Fight him.
Don't fight your bros.
I'm gonna fight Jordan
Just
after
don't
this
threaten
recording.
to cut people's nuts off and blow up buildings and
Wait, you're telling you've never told one of your boys
jerk
one more
off
time I'm gonna
and-
cut these
and
nuts
they're
off.
some other people's clam chowder. Like,
Can we say this? It is kind of funny to know that they're giving shit to the rich and everything,
Yeah.
like coming in their food and everything. That is,
well, that is supposed to be this dream of look what I can still fuck with them.
yeah, it's fuck the man, fuck the establishment and all that jazz. I'm always for fuck the
I know, so I
establishment.
found that interesting. Again, it's like you think where he's coming from is like, oh well, yeah, of course somebody needs to take the man down, but not like this though. Like,
Yeah. Maybe this isn't the most useful way to
Right.
do that.
So I guess the best message to take from all this is fuck the man and work on emotional maturity.
Yeah.
and if you're gonna acknowledge your shadow, as Jung would say, your imaginary friend, don't let him convince you to start a fucking fight club and a cult.
And as Austin 316 says, I just whooped your ass. What?
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. If you made it all the way to the end of this one, I just wanted to thank you extra because I know this was a big, chunky episode. But it was definitely a labor of love. A lot of work and time and energy went into it. So thank you so much for listening and being here to support us. We've got some really cool stuff coming up in the next few months. So I hope you guys stick around and check out what we've got in store. I think you're really going to like it. As always, if you could subscribe and interact with the podcast, leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. And you're also welcome to follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We have TikTok now too, and on YouTube. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next time.
Maybe you could come over and read it again to me tomorrow.
As you wish.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal. We can't get in the wrestling right now. Like, quit this corporate world, be a podcaster, and put on clown makeup. What's better than that? Lorena Bobbitt, a hero.
I watched the Bad Bunny in real time because I'm an ally.
Dusty Rhodes? Woo, daddy. Hard times, baby. Hard times. Hey, you know who's a good editor? Maze.
Yeah, she'll make it work.
Yeah.
She's like, I will by taking it all out. And I will follow you anywhere, my fearless leader. Hi, Tyler Durden. I won't ask questions.
Maze, he brought up his dead dad. I want to point that out. You missed it.
Hey, to be fair, this is a record time. To be fair, and also, I think you would have been concerned if I didn't bring it up at all. I need validation too.
Jordan, you're doing a good
buddy.
job.
You're being a good boy. And sometimes, you end up with a load in your mouth.
I'm cutting that out.
God damn it.